So as you can see in the title, I want to talk about Bryan Kohberger, the DNA, which I think will absolutely be the nail in the coffin for Bryan Kohberger. I want to talk about BTK's daughter, and then we're going to show the very short clip of Kohberger's Extradition, which I see a lot of bigger channels streaming that. There's not a lot to see. It may be 15 minutes of video or something like that. And this stuff I find far more interesting. So, we know that DNA is what is linking Bryan Kohberger to this crime. So I wanted to play this. And this was posted 7 hours ago. Let me just not get myself striked here. And turn this up to 1.25 playback speed. All right, here we go.
Nancy Grace joins us right now. She's been following the case since the beginning. That's fascinating because Mr. Kohberger, did not submit to being swabbed or giving DNA. But Nancy, it sounds like from what I've heard, according to various press sources, it sounds like they went through the criminal DNA database. They didn't have a hit. But they went through the publicable things like 23andMe or Ancestry, whatever, and apparently a family member did, and so that was the DNA they found at the crime scene.
Absolutely. This relative apparently had not only submitted her DNA to find out their ancestry, but it put it out there publicly to, I guess, find long-lost relatives, and that may be how cops connect to him. Maybe. Not him necessarily, but someone related to him, and then they find, wow, who's related to him in this area? Then they find out he's driving a white Elantra, and that was a nail in the coffin so far. But I believe, as do you, that there will be significant data from mobile phone towers. Not just the geofencing that you and I talked about way back when, as what the cops should do, but I believe they will be able to place Kohberger on many different occasions around the victims as he spied, watched, and stalked them. I mean,
I agree with her. It's obvious, and again, I remember the police department saying that is exactly what they were going to do, that they were going to move it on to something like Ancestry.com. So I don't know how Bryan Kohberger thinks he is going to get out of DNA, because people lie. DNA doesn't lie. Okay? So, all right, let's finish this, and then we'll talk about it for a second.
Looked at that video of them at the food truck. What we didn't see was who was beyond that perimeter. You don't know how far away he was standing and staring at them on many occasions. And I believe one of those locations is going to be that parking lot behind them.
Unbelievable. I read a number of pings for him adjacent to the suspect, or rather to the victims. And so that is very curious. But ultimately, Nancy, if he's going to waive extradition, he thinks he can beat this. Because as we've heard these stories about, he's studied.
I love Nancy's little laugh there. Like, yeah, right. Because again, this guy can come up with any damn story he wants. You're not getting away from DNA. Even Dennis Rader was smart enough to realize, well, shit, they have my DNA. It's over. He pleaded guilty. He didn't even go through the trial. But in my opinion, Bryan Kohberger is such an extreme narcissist that he truly does believe that with his schooling, with his education, focused on forensic science or forensic, losing my words here. But yeah, I think that he definitely thinks he's going to get away with this. And I actually think that there was some planning of his for if he gets caught. I firmly believe that his defense lawyers are going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at this and see what sticks. Because, again, how do you get around DNA? What I think they're going to say is that, yes, Bryan was in the house. This is why his DNA was there. They could even, a lot of the time, they will put the victim on trial. We've seen that with Suzanne Morphew. They do that. I think it's disgusting, but they do that. So I can see them even saying, oh, well, Kaylee invited Bryan over that night or something like that. But I think Nancy is spot on. The phone data is going to be critical and key here as well. Data and DNA are going to put this monster away for life. Hopefully.
Criminology and DNA and forensics, and he was wearing gloves around at grocery stores. He probably thought, I outsmarted them. But, if Aunt Edna gave up the DNA to 23andMe or somebody like that, that could ultimately have been the thing that undid him.
Absolutely. There's no way you can convince me that there's not one piece of evidence in that Elantra.
Yeah.
I mean, he may be brilliant, but there's no way he can clean that Elantra, get rid of every single trace of evidence. And we believe, the perp left the scene in Elantra.
Let's see. They're going to unveil the document later today, the charging document, and we'll know what they've got. Nancy, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this charging document. I have not seen it. If you guys have seen it, then okay, but I have not. We're going to go ahead and show the Extradition. It is not long. You get a glimpse of him walking out of the van into the court, and then there's another video of him walking down the hallway of the court. But as usual, there was some miscommunication because originally it was being reported that there were going to be cameras in the courtroom, which I thought was really weird because I don't care what courtroom it is across the country. They're just cameras and audio recording devices are not allowed in courtrooms unless it's a legitimate news station that the court approves of. Things like that. I think for PA, they were saying, first come, first serve. But what it really turned out to be is, yes, media can show up and they can show him going into the court. They can show him in the hallway. They were not allowed to show the actual court proceedings. So, and that's just really typical. But this is Bryan. I'm sure you guys have watched this already, but we'll go ahead and show it real quick. I just don't want to spend a lot of time on it. There really wasn't much to see. Even though I will say I did notice his height. All right, Robbie, I'll show that in a minute. I see that is live right now. But yeah, this was him earlier
Robbie,
today.
I'll show that in a minute.
Oops, sorry.
I see that as well. Why did you do it? Why did you do it?
I kind of really hate the attention that this person is because with narcissism, he's going to love that, which is super annoying. But there is a very high interest in this case, so it is what it is. Where's that news conference? It's on WFLA, correct? Well, my Google payments are on hold. What's new?
I don't know, but I found these results on search.
Hey, Google, stop. All right, we'll pull that up.
Your bread looks good. Don't call it bread. It's naan. Rich, pillowy, buttery naan. That's some.
We got to get through this ad
Try
first,
stone
apparently.
fryer naan. And be a non-conformist.
Juvederm lips say it all. They can be bold, subtle, and everything in between.
All right, here we
Our special emergency response.
Let's restart this. Oh, this is showing him walking down the hallway.
Look, I guess we will
find out. And that those details might have been discussed briefly in court as to what the evidence looked like. Did Bryan Ensign finish his tweeting? Let's see. Keeping an eye on our feeds here. Okay, so I'll read the rest of Bryan Ensign's tweets. Kohberger told the judge he is not on any medication that would impact him making the decision. The judge said he has to be sent to Idaho within 10 days.
Oh, 10 days. 72 hours, but.
And then just seconds ago, Kohberger came to court and made eye contact with his family, sitting in the front row. He nodded at them. His mom cried, and his sister comforted the mom. A deputy brought her tissues. So Kohberger, according to Bryan Ensign, made contact with his own family, clearly emotional in the courtroom. Whether or not there was any moment of eyes meeting, or if there was any moment of Kohberger seeing any of the victims' families, that hasn't been. Look, we're going to get all this information over the course of this live stream. We'll get more details as soon as it comes out. But as of right now, that's what we're going based off of our friend Bryan Ensign. We'll go back to some other comments.
And look, I would imagine he doesn't want to sit in jail for 10 days. You know, if he believes that he's innocent and wants to fight this, I don't know how much control he has in making it happen faster than 10 days, but that's what the judge said.
He has no control. Listen, the jail has all the control in the world. Bryan Kohberger has zero control about when he is going to be extradited. He just doesn't. And if you know anything about jails, they run on their own darn time, okay? They don't run on anybody else's time.
What would have happened had he not waived extradition? So then they have to fight for extradition, and that would have elongated the process. Yeah, and then it's also, look, in the court of public opinion, that's not going to help your cause. If you're fighting extradition, that says something. That says something about.
It sends the wrong optics.
It does. Agreeing to extradition and saying you're looking forward to being exonerated, that sends a very clear message that you're looking forward to clearing your name.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a benefit to fight it unless you're.
Quite honestly, fellows, waiving his extradition and looking forward to exonerating himself only says to me that his narcissism is off the damn charts. Okay.
Trying to build a case from where you are, but you can't really build a case unless you know really what you're up against. So, kind of a moot point.
We'll continue to take your questions and your comments. I want to get this out there though as well. We'll put away Sarah's comment here for just a moment. Fox News reported this afternoon that Bryan Kohberger's defense team, not his attorney, his defense team, hired investigators, and that those investigators arrived at the home where he is accused of fatally stabbing the University of Idaho students in Moscow. 3 men, now I'll read this, 3 men, 2 women, according to Fox News, arrived at the King Road house about noon Eastern time, spent 45 minutes taking video inside and outside of the property. Before the investigators left after touring the home, while a crime scene reconstruction analyst remained. Very, very interesting report from Fox News. So this is we're starting to get the inklings of a considerable legal showdown here between the prosecutors in Idaho and between Bryan Kohberger, who isn't just going to be represented by his defense team, but also too, this is somebody who is studying criminal justice, right? Somebody who has a bachelor's and a master's degree, Josh, right? In fields related to the exact situation that he finds himself in, which of course, in and of itself is interesting to say the least. So how he now goes about proving what he claims to be his innocence is going to be really the major storyline now going forward. But really, everyone's just waiting for this evidence to drop because the evidence is concrete. It certainly points to. Look, everyone wants justice. Justice is the word.
Say it, JB.
For University of Idaho students,
the DNA is going to nail his ass to the wall. Okay.
Just terrible, active people. And if this is the person who committed the crime, then everyone wants there to be justice. And what justice looks like will take shape over the coming months.
Now, I want to address a tweet too from Elena Clemens, saying Steve Gonclaves said he would be in the court in Idaho. Did not say he was flying a PA to attend BK's extradition report accurately. All right, I was going off the fact that he's saying that he's going to be wherever he can be.
I'm sorry, wait. What do we have incorrect?
This woman is saying Steve Gonclaves said he would be in the court in Idaho. He did not say he was flying a PA to attend BK's extradition hearing. Please report accurately. So if I have that incorrect, then I've seen it incorrectly a few different times on other news agencies. So that's why I was hoping if we could see people coming out of the courtroom, because then I could compare who was there and who wasn't.
Yeah. And what's interesting too, again, was so Steve going to be at the Idaho court hearings to look him in the face and let him know this is not going away.
Okay, so maybe that was.
Yep. No, but
That's
you know what, though, that
Thank you, Elena, for. I'm gonna give you a leg. There you go.
has been part of. I might have had that incorrect too,
But as a father, everywhere he can be. If that happened to my daughter, you can bet I would be anywhere I could be at any, because this is something that his daughter was ripped from his life. And if this is the prime suspect, then
yeah, I got a similar thing. So my apology. I misspoke too. That Steve was not
that might be
recording.
recording.
So our apologies there for that inaccuracy. That Steve Gonclaves is going to be at the legal proceedings in Idaho, and not today in Pennsylvania. So excuse us. I misread that as that he was going to be in court today. Yeah, and people who are saying online that there's video of him already leaving, I'm not surprised by that at all. Yeah, I was really hoping to have that feed here, folks, but I do not control the camera crews outside of the courtroom. And
there's not a lot in terms of tweets either, in terms of it was such a short hearing.
yeah, I see
really
video
nothing.
of Kohberger leaving court. Yeah. So we were hoping to have feeds from outside of the courthouse.
Yeah, and if you're just joining us, we don't have a camera inside the courtroom, so we didn't get to see.
Yeah, there's no cameras inside the courtroom, but according to, news media outlets already, it only, like a 15-minute hearing. It's more of a formality that he just needed to just say that he was waiving his extradition. But I want to get to the press conference here. We're going to skip all this stuff. I don't know where the press conference starts, but let's see. I think they're waiting here. Trying to go through this. Find this press conference. Okay, so it looks like they're waiting here for
The reason
that.
for their press conference, I believe, I guess we'll find out here momentarily, the exact reason why they are calling the press conference. It wasn't made exactly clear. They just want to discuss details, questions that they have been being asked about the apprehension of Bryan Kohberger, wanted, of course, and the suspect in the University of Idaho stabbing. So this is the feed here in the center of your screen. We're about 5-10 minutes away.
Yeah, and we just heard actually watched obviously the video of Kohberger coming in and out of the hearing, the extradition hearing. A lot of people asking what happened inside of that hearing, and I'm starting to see some of the notes from some of the reporters. Bradley Warren's a reporter out there in the courtroom. He said he kept looking at his mom and his sisters. At some point, he mouthed out something to them that was unclear, but he said that he made the decision voluntary, nothing more than yes, and I understand. We also found out that Ann Taylor will be the public attorney in Idaho when he is extradited back to the state of Idaho. So we're just getting a few details of what happened during that hearing, as well as what's going to happen once he's extradited in terms of his defense.
So just confirm, so a public defender in Idaho.
Ann Taylor is her name, right?
Right. So a public defender representing him in Pennsylvania, and then, of course, a public defender representing him in Moscow, Idaho.
I don't see how he's going to keep a public defender as his attorney. Idaho carries the death penalty. And this is, if there's any case, again, that is worthy of a death penalty case, it is exactly this one. So when you have a death penalty case, you can't just have any lawyer. You have to have a lawyer that is skilled, experienced in death penalty cases. So I guess Ann Taylor is going to be his public defender in Idaho. But if they lay first-degree murder charges and they seek the death penalty, his lawyer is going to change because, again, you have to have a lawyer that is skilled in death penalty cases. So, anyway.
As we see here, look at the size of the group of media that have assembled here in the room. Really not all that surprised considering the magnitude of the case. But as soon as this press conference gets underway, we will, of course, turn up the audio. We will listen in and we'll take you here live, full screen. And in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll answer some questions here out of the YouTube Live comment section. We're about to relaunch on Facebook Live. Jordan asking, hashtag first vote, do you think that because he studies criminology, he has a plan?
I think that's a great question. Does he have a plan? I am theorizing that Bryan Kohberger, with his background in criminal justice, with his focus on forensics, I feel like he has thought about and plans, if he was arrested, what his defense would be. And I think the problem that they're going to run into, the prosecution, is that this was a quote-unquote party house. There were a lot of people in and out of this house. I think he's going to say something along the lines of, yeah, I attended a party there. That's why my DNA is there. How are you going to explain DNA? Potentially, Xana's dad said that she put up one hell of a fight. She had defensive wounds. So if any of his DNA, if she reached up and scratched his face, if he was unmasked, or any of that got under her fingernails, anything of that nature, how do you explain that? You cannot explain that sort of DNA away. Okay. I do think his defense is going to try to do that. And I think they are also going to point the finger at anyone that is not Bryan. With all of the DNA that we all suspect is in that house, I think that's going to pose a bit of a problem. And I think Bryan himself and his defense team or whatever is going to literally throw whatever they can against the wall, see what sticks. And I think they're going to try to create any sort of doubt that they can with the jury that it could have been other people and not Bryan. Unfortunately for Bryan, technology exists. DNA exists now. This is not the 70s. You're not going to be the perfect serial killer. So yeah, I agree with Nancy Grace that Elantra, there has to be some type of DNA in there. You are not going to clean a car perfectly and get everything out of there. And it's clearly the car that he drove away from the crime scene. So good luck to you, Bryan Kohberger, because I strongly dislike this guy already because his narcissism is just literally through the freaking roof. And I actually hate that he went into court and was smiling at his mom and nodding at his mom and his sister, and his mom's crying. Like, yes, lady, your son is probably a mass murderer who wanted to be a wannabe serial killer. But guess what? These 4 students' families have been crying and grieving for weeks. So excuse me that I do not have a lot of sympathy. I just don't.
You know, I would imagine that the plan is very fluid and coming together. This is something that is going across now a couple of different states, but does his degree in criminology having a plan? We really don't know the answer to this question.
I think, and the bigger question is, he's dealing with public defenders. Does he not have an attorney, or maybe doesn't have the money to afford an attorney, a profile attorney that's going to come out and represent him in this case? No bigger or higher profile attorney has come to say, I want to represent this person as what we're learning, because this Ann Taylor, this chief public defender in Kootenai County, if I'm pronouncing that right, will be the one representing him. So as you said, JB, from Pennsylvania to Idaho, he's dealing with public defenders. So as far as having a plan from criminology, I mean, it's too early to tell, what his plans are. Does he have knowledge of? Well, we're not going to go down that route because I could easily go down that route. But I think a lot of people on social media have gone down that route. What does he know from his degree in criminology or his PhD studies? What does he know about situations like this?
I promise you that he knows a lot. If he has a master's in criminal justice, a bachelor's in psychology, and was going for his doctorate in criminology, he knows a lot.
It's all speculation. And I think right now all he needs to focus on is getting the defender in place, going to Idaho and trying to exonerate himself from these charges. I think that's primarily the focus.
We will, a lot of these questions are going to become more clear over time, and really, we might get some answers in this press conference. Which, again, I'll admit, I'm curious as to what the subject matter is going to be for this press conference.
Me
But
too,
look, we're going to find out here
JB.
momentarily. Police have something to say, and of course, we're going to be listening with our pens on the ready to take notes, because this is now leaving the Pennsylvania arena and going into the legal arena in Idaho, and that's where this story will continue from this point forward. So, also too, have we heard any details on when the action is actually going to begin? Again, I believe the way that it works, and I'm not speaking with a high degree of confidence, but a relatively moderate degree of confidence, in that Idaho arranges for the extradition to the actual transport from one state to the other. It's something that really Idaho is responsible for.
Yes.
So, look, we might find that out by the end of today as to, look, is he going to be flying? Is he going to drive?
And the judge said the limit is 10 days. It has to be done within 10 days. Sometimes this happens within 72 hours, is what I've been seeing a lot of. So yeah, it's going to come down.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to be. I had someone ask me, like, is he going to be extradited on today? No. Jails kind of move a little slow, but with the high interest in this case, high profile, I expect him to be transported, like he said, within the next 72 hours. So within the next few days to come, but they are saying they have up to 10 days. I think Idaho is going to be eager to get him back and lay these charges against him, which, again, I can't wait to see that affidavit. But anyway.
Respect. I would imagine you'd want to get there as quickly as possible because to avoid having to sit in jail any longer in Pennsylvania. I think we'll see it in the next few days. Personally, that's what I think is going to happen.
I think so too.
Actually, KJB, I thought that for sure he would have a high-profile lawyer to represent him. I wonder if that is going to change.
Well, I was talking to my wife about this last night, and she made a good point. She's like, maybe he doesn't have money. Maybe he's a student. Maybe he just doesn't have. Ask yourself, if you were committed of a crime right now, you have access to money to hire they can cost in the hundreds of thousands of dollars on a retainer, depending on how big of a event. So yeah, maybe that's the case, or maybe a higher profile attorney will come in to offer to do it and to be on his defense team. We've seen that in the past. So I mean, just the fact that we have a name now as a public defender, that doesn't necessarily mean that's who it's going to be through the proceedings.
It's not going to be who it's going to be through the proceedings, because as I said, if the state of Idaho, and I firmly believe that they are definitely going to go for the death penalty in this case, you cannot just have a regular public defender. You must have an attorney that is qualified to represent a defendant in a death penalty case. So again, if Idaho decides to go for the death penalty, I do believe that they will in this case. His lawyer is definitely going to change. So
yeah, will there be an attorney taking this pro bono? I mean, my goodness, I guess look, a lot of that is going to be answered in the days and weeks ahead. But you got to believe there's a lot of defense attorneys out there wanting to make a name for themselves who said this is one of the biggest cases.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that, Josh Benson, because there are going to be defense attorneys that are going to want to make a name for themselves, and this is the case to do it. Think back to Casey Anthony and Jose Baez. He took that case on. He made a big name for himself through that case. And unfortunately, he actually got her off, which still disgusts me to this day. But he's right. There are going to be defense attorneys that are going to want to make a name for themselves. And I think that if they do that, they're going to be hated, because this crime is so heinous. It's so crazy in the fact that this guy went into a house and murdered 4 young 20 people, that I just don't think the public is going to take kindly to anyone trying to defend this guy and make a name for himself or herself.
It's now in the world that people are talking about. I'm going to hitch my wagon to it, try to get this guy off the charges.
Yeah, I mean, an arrest affidavit,
that's not far-fetched.
Getting released, and then the evidence.
Not far-fetched at all.
Look at attorneys far and wide are going to be looking at that arrest affidavit to see just exactly how much they have
what
on
they're dealing with, right?
Yep.
So where is this now? Is this the police headquarters?
Yeah, look at the exact location.
That's a tiny room.
This is Monroe County District Attorney's Office in Stratford, PA. So same county, but not too far away. In fact, reporters might be heading over to this location, going from the courthouse over here. Who knows? So this is about to get underway. We'll continue to answer some questions while we have another, really it's 4:29, so that's snuck up on. This will begin momentarily. Let's bring up our audio here for the first time. And here are
the other story.
Pennsylvania State
Ready
Police.
time. Love it.
Let's listen in.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adam Reed. I'm the Director of the Communications Office with the Pennsylvania State Police. Thank you for joining us here. The order of speakers is going to be our Pennsylvania State Police Commissioner, Colonel Robert Evanchik, Major Christopher Peretz, he's our Area 3 Commander, and First Assistant District Attorney, Monroe County, Mike Mancuso. After the speakers are finished, we will then take a handful of questions. Colonel Evanchik.
Good afternoon. I'm Colonel Robert Evanchik, Commissioner of the Pennsylvania State Police. While I monitored the investigation into the horrific murders of the University of Idaho students, I did not imagine the investigation would lead to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. My heart goes out to the families of the victims, their friends, the community of Moscow, and the University of Idaho. No words can heal the pain associated with the loss of a child. Their young lives were ended far too soon. In law enforcement, we understand the best thing we can do for victims and their families is to follow every lead, collect every piece of evidence, and bring those responsible to justice. I am proud of the members of the Pennsylvania State Police who were able to help in this investigation. The cooperative relationship between our local, state, and federal partners stands the test of time. The officers, troopers, and federal agents work together tirelessly, putting in long, difficult hours. Communication and cooperation are imperative to success and to ensure the integrity of the case remains maintained. The culmination of that cooperation ultimately led to take the suspect into custody and afforded the families some sense of peace they deserve. I want to thank the Moscow Police Department, the Idaho State Police, and our partners in the Federal Bureau of Investigation for their support, assistance, and coordination. I also want to recognize the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. And finally, I need to acknowledge the members of the police, specifically members of Troop N, our Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and our Bureau of Emergency and Special Operations, who assisted in safely taking the suspect into custody in the early morning hours of December 30th. As previously indicated by Chief James Fry of the Moscow Police Department, specific details regarding this investigation cannot be released until the suspect is extradited to Idaho and presented with the probable cause affidavit. At this time, I will turn the microphone over to Major Christopher Paris, Commander of Area 3, who was in coordinated efforts to get the suspect into custody.
Wow.
Thank you, Colonel. Area 3 comprises Troops F, P, N, and R, and is made up of approximately of the women and men, civilian and enlisted in the northeastern part of Pennsylvania. I'd like to introduce to my left Captain Norm Kramer, who's the commander of Troop N Hazelton, which is comprised of Carbon, Monroe, Columbia, and parts of Luzerne counties. I would like to reiterate, as the Colonel said, that Idaho law prohibits any release of information contained within the affidavits. So we're going to do our best today to talk about what phase we are currently in the investigation, and it has entered a new phase with the waiver for extradition. And the continuing primary goal is the seeking of justice through successful prosecution and conviction, bearing the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So with that in mind, we're trying to balance essentially two things: the public's desire for information against the need to maintain the integrity of the investigation and protect the suspects, accused at this point, due process. So I'll now attempt to give you an operational picture with the best information I can release at the time. So this begins when the Pennsylvania State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigation troopers were FBI about assisting with surveillance of the accused in this case. I'd like to take the opportunity to specifically thank several individuals. Special Agent in Charge Jackie McGuire and Assistant Special Agent in Charge Dave Carter from the Philadelphia Field Division and Supervisory Special Agent Bill Vigorito of the Scranton RA. We're very lucky at PSP to have a collaborative relationship with the Bureau both in Pennsylvania and beyond, and their people are absolutely excellent. So as the investigation progressed, Troop N Criminal Investigation Section, commanded by Captain Kramer over my left shoulder here, began to collaborate with authorities in Idaho. Specifically, I'd like Lieutenant James Kernodle, who's here today, Sergeant Anthony Ferdinand, Corporal John Chulak, who is not present with us, and Troopers Leary and Knoll, who are here with us today. It was through this collaboration and the charges pending in Idaho that those troopers were able to obtain search warrants and a fugitive justice warrant that was prepared here in Monroe County for the location in Chestnut Hill Township and the fugitive from justice warrant for Mr. Kohberger, respectively. I'd like to acknowledge the Monroe County District Attorney, Christine, as well as First Assistant Mike Mancuso, and their entire office. The support that we received was absolutely excellent. Once those warrants were obtained, the Bureau of Emergency and Special Operations, BESO, coordinates our Special Emergency Response Team, CERT. They were selected to serve those warrants, the 3 search warrants and the fugitive from justice warrant. To define what CERT is, it's a full-time tactical team maintained by PSP to deal with high-risk warrant situations, barricades, and other incidents requiring specialized tactical training or other capabilities. From their perspective, we essentially task them to go out and serve a arrest warrant for someone accused of a quadruple murder. They're activated several hundred times a year throughout the Commonwealth. We don't typically hear of their work in a forum like this because they serve the warrant, the person's taken into custody, and they go about their assignment. They are the ultimate professionals. It's a volunteer team. They're highly trained and highly motivated. Captain Norm Kramer over my left shoulder was assigned as the top com for the CERT activation, which means he was responsible for coordinating our tactical preparations. So tactical assets were then staged in the county, in Monroe County, into the evening of Thursday, December 29th, last Thursday. And in the early hours of Friday, December 30th, those were executed at the location. Mr. Kohberger was taken into custody without incident. The scene was turned over to the FBI Evidence Response Team for processing. Mr. Kohberger was then turned over to the Monroe County Prison, where he has remained in their custody since. I'd like to thank the Monroe County Sheriff and the Stroud Regional Police Department for their support as well during the extradition process. Arrangements currently are being made to deliver Kohberger back to Idaho, where he can have continued due process and face these charges. So it's with that, I will turn it over to First Assistant. Thank you, Major.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Mancuso with the DA's office, the First Assistant District Attorney. I want to give my condolences to the families of the victims out in Idaho for their loss. And it's my sincere hope that this marks a clear step in the right direction of effectuating justice for those folks. My office's role was relatively recent. We weren't advised of the presence of the defendant in our county until only a couple days before the apprehension of the defendant. But when we were told, we came together, worked very closely with Captain Kramer, who did an excellent job in almost like a clockwork operation. Part of my duties were to ensure that 3 separate search warrants were issued. Those affidavits attached to those search warrants are still under seal, so I can't discuss their contents with you. But one was for the person of Mr. Kohberger, collecting DNA and photographs, that sort of thing. One was for the white Elantra vehicle, which I understand has been seized and is being processed. And one was for the address and residence that he's living in with his family. I was at the scene, and I have to say that Major Paris and Captain Norm Kramer did an outstanding job in coordinating the efforts, not only of the numerous Pennsylvania State police troopers there, but officers from other jurisdictions and disciplines within those jurisdictions to make this a very smooth, highly competent professional operation. It is a quirk, apparently. It's not in the norm of the states I'm familiar with that Idaho does not release their probable affidavit in support of their arrest warrant until after their defendant is returned to that. But having read those documents and the sealed affidavits of probable cause, I definitely believe that one of the main reasons the defendant chose to waive extradition and hurry his return back to Idaho was the need to know what was in those documents. So that's a significant development.
That's very interesting that he is saying that. So he's basically saying Bryan Kohberger is waiving his extradition because he wants to see what evidence they have against him, just like the rest of us. And, again, narcissism.
Looking at the scope of the situation and the ties this defendant has to my county, I would hold our office at the disposal of the Idaho authorities to help facilitate a complete background investigation into the defendant, both activities prior to the murders occurring within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and his activities after the murders in Pennsylvania. So we stand ready to assist with that effort on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
Interesting.
We're not in a position to give you an exact time. It was at some point prior to when the surveillance was taken as the investigation progressed to a point where search warrants could be obtained and the probable cause for those search warrants and an arrest warrant, a fugitive from justice warrant based on the arrest warrant out in Idaho were obtained. We began to take the tactical steps to plan to search. At this point, like we said, it's very much pertinent to what's in the affidavits, which we cannot speak about. Present sense impression, as likewise ongoing investigation can discuss.
How is Kohberger being transported back to Idaho?
Those arrangements are being discussed right now, as well as the logistics. The court order says, as you heard it today, it's within the next 10 days, so we're currently working on that in coordination with authorities out in Idaho. Sir? I can't comment.
Is he being held in the Monroe County jail until he's extradited, or is he removed to another?
No, he is lodged in the since he was dropped off there Friday morning. He's resided in Monroe County prison. Correct, yes. At this point, that's still being coordinated between the state police and the authorities out there. We don't know. I don't want to speak out of my lane. When I watched the press conference on Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, I was alerted to the fact that, according to Idaho state law, that the affidavits have to be served to him once he's extradited back before they could be unsealed.
Has anyone else been arrested?
Ongoing investigation.
Has a ghost been
I can't comment on that either. I apologize. He's presently back. He was transported from the courthouse by Monroe County Sheriff, and the logistics of who's going to transport him out to Idaho are still being discussed. We don't know. I would say it was in the early morning hours of Friday, December 30th. Technical assets on scene were probably in the neighborhood of 50.
50 people.
I would say overall about this entire operation, and the credit goes, this is a part that the state police played humbly. You look at Moscow Police Department, 38 sworn, 19,000 leads, the video evidence that they had to develop in order to put that out, all public source information. But when you talk about the service of a high-risk warrant for someone who's committed or alleged to have committed 4 homicides, there's nothing routine about that. And all of those tactical steps that were taken were in conjunction with the best efforts of the authorities, local, state, and federal, both in Idaho and here, to ensure that we could do it safely and to ensure that we could get him into custody and that those service of the search warrants could occur.
Can we ask a question on the first? So you described having read to a degree the contents of that affidavit of probable cause, and that you possibly speculated or theorized that it actually that is what the BTK is. To give us an indication of the seriousness of what you did, and you can't talk about it. You share with us something. Yeah, I can't get into the details, sir, but I can say it involved the defendant's connection to a scene of a crime consisting of 4 murdered people. So that's the significance of it.
Can you confirm that there is a connection between Bryan Kohberger and any of the victims?
I can't that he is guilty of extraction. It would be my place to say. Certainly confident enough that there was ample probable cause for the issuance of the various warrants.
Your reaction when you heard this, we've all talked about you followed this. This happened state. We get that call, or you all get the call. This person could be right here in your home area. What's your reaction?
Well, I was surprised. Really, Monroe County of all places. It is close to home. It's a normal human reaction, I would think, under the circumstances.
You know when he and his father left Idaho or Washington or Pennsylvania, what that date was?
No, I don't know the exact date.
I believe it was in the middle of December. Is that correct? About the American reports that they were stopped not once but twice on the highway. Can you elaborate?
I'll refer to his Pennsylvania public defender on that.
Kohberger is connected to other crimes and unsolved mysteries in the area.
I wouldn't answer that question at this time. But that would be a normal thing to do.
Question for the BSB here. Said he was taken without incident. Safe to say that, I should say, it seemed like he was expecting.
I would comment on what his present sense was. I would just comment that the professionalism of the CERT team and their tactical training definitely proved in a situation like this to do it in the most tactically sound way possible.
Was there anybody else in the house at the time?
His parents were in the house.
Anything to you?
Again, present sense impression. I can't get that ongoing investigation.
You break down the door.
Force was used. The warrants were issued for evening search warrants, which in Pennsylvania requires additional probable cause during them at the hours of darkness. I would defer to the first assistant to talk about the legal burden that you bear in order to obtain those. But from a standpoint, based upon all the briefings that we had developed and all of the intelligence we had developed, we thought that was time to serve it.
That Pennsylvania was involved with this.
They were alerted by the FBI troopers in the Bureau of Criminal Investigation. Were alerted.
On social media pages that type thing.
I can't comment. Like I said, the state police's role here was to serve the warrants and assist with the surveillance, which we've done. We've been part of major investigations. These are men and women who take an oath to protect our communities and the Commonwealth here. We're very humbled with the opportunity that we had, given a case that has really gained international attention to play a small part in it. And our hat is off to Moscow PD again with the size and the complexity of this investigation and the work that they've done to get us here today. And this is only the beginning of the next step.
Did anyone here in Pennsylvania either help conceal or dispose of any evidence? Then you would be a part of this case, or would it go?
I would say that we would pledge whatever support we can for ongoing investigations with the Idaho authorities here in Pennsylvania. Absolutely, we would help them in any way we can. I don't want to get into what was actually seized in the house pursuant to the evidentiary nature of it.
Why you all decided to go in for to make the
Those are tactical decisions in terms of base surveillance. I don't want to give out too many tactical factors that go into that situation, but obviously surveillance was conducted and we wanted to go in at a time when we thought it would be the safest for everybody, safest for anybody else in the house, safest for Mr. Kohberger, and safest for our people.
There was an interesting question asked earlier about the care that needed to be taken to not tip the suspect off. Could you describe how long that lid had to be on things and how many people were involved in it? Like how many people knew it for how long?
So I would say, I would answer the question this way. I don't want to get into a timeline in terms of when we were notified by the FBI and when the surveillance began. Obviously, we know on Thursday night into Friday was when the were served. I would say, as a credit to the professionals, both standing behind me and others not here, many others not here, the information was held very close. And he did not want to have any situation where Mr. Kohberger potentially would be tipped off. So as a result of that, I would say a number of approximately 7 to 8 individuals, maybe 10 on the most within the PSP side of this operation knew about it.
For days, can we say? Or?
I would say for a period of time. I would not feel comfortable commenting any more than that for a period of time. And then as the tactical assets were brought in, people were briefed.
The plan is finally decided. Will there be an announcement?
Not from the state police, so we would defer to Moscow and the authorities in Idaho. We have security concern now, obviously, to move any prisoner. Anytime you move somebody from a secure prison to another place, there won't be an announcement from the state police in terms of those logistics, but they're being worked out right now.
Can you confirm when you think he might be moved roughly?
We would like to do it as soon as possible, but the court order says 10 days. We have 10 days to coordinate.
You think we'll be on a plane tonight? Is it possible you could be on a plane tonight? That's a possibility, right?
I would think that's probably not likely.
Private plane? Or would you like to?
We're looking at that right now.
Can you confirm or deny that a window was broken in order to gain access into the home?
There were multiple windows that were broken, I believe, to gain access, as well as multiple doors. I think the video of the house after the fact confirms that, and that would all be part of the tactical plan based on the floor plan of the house, etc., and what the CERT operators would do to serve those warrants.
Wow. So he's saying there was multiple windows busted out of their house. I think they really did do this at the correct time. They did this very early morning hours and the element of surprise.
Suspect on your radar before, and are you looking at any objections?
Would comment on that based on the ongoing nature.
Didn't have a criminal past. According to the UJS, I didn't see anything.
I can't comment on a person's criminal history during an ongoing investigation.
Mr. Meduso said that you stand ready to assist in giving background to the defendant. What specifically?
I cannot hear these reporters.
That'll be the last question.
In any case of this nature, and I've prosecuted a fair share of homicides, double homicides, that sort of thing, you want to look at any evidence of possible motive. You want to look at any evidence of a pattern, modus operandi or method. You want to get into the subject's character, mental state to the best you can, that sort of thing. So it'll be an all-encompassing effort, which we stand ready for. Okay. We have our ways.
We have our ways.
Thanks, everyone. Just for a quick spelling, I'll give everyone the spelling of everyone's name. It's included in the media advisory, but just so we have it. So Colonel's last name is Evanchik, E-V-A-N.
I don't think I want to watch the spellings of everybody's name, but keep going with this.
The drive back to Pennsylvania from Idaho with his dad. You heard them also answer questions as to whether or not he was pulled over with his dad in Indiana a couple of times, because Jim LaBar, the chief public defender, indicate that to Fox News. Of course, was asked during the press conference. But so a majority of what we learned here over the course of this press conference was that this was a highly tactical and highly coordinated and professional effort to bring in Kohberger without any incident whatsoever. This is a tactical team that was used for high-risk situations. The arrangements are being made. They are looking at flight options to get Kohberger back to the state of Idaho. But perhaps the most interesting moment, at least to me, and I queued this up over the course of the press conference, the most interesting part of the press conference to me comes from Mike Mancuso of the district attorney's office, when he talked about why exactly Kohberger would be, in his words, wanting to get back to Idaho to answer the charges. Let's listen into that moment.
It is a quirk, apparently.
This is also the most interesting part to me. I stopped here to talk about this specifically. So yes, I am honing in on this, that I feel like they definitely, with their own backgrounds in criminal justice and all of that, I think that they see Kohberger for exactly what he is, and truly understand that this person wants to get back to Idaho as fast as he can, because like the rest of us, we want to see that affidavit. We want to see what the probable cause of it is, so he wants to see it too. So I think that this guy theorizing that is dead on the mark, that is exactly what Bryan Kohberger wants to see. What evidence do they have on me?
It's not in the norm of the states I'm familiar with that Idaho does not release their probable cause affidavit in support of their arrest warrant until after their defendant is returned to that state. But having read those documents and the sealed affidavit,
he read those documents. He's aware. He knows what's in them, and this is what he is theorizing.
I definitely believe that one of the main reasons the defendant chose to waive extradition and hurry his return back to Idaho was the need to know what was in those documents. So that's a significant development.
That's a significant development. I absolutely agree with that. I'm very glad that he said that, because again, I fully agree. Yesterday I did a live stream on Bryan Kohberger's professor, his teacher, the one that he got the master's degree in criminal justice under, Dr. Catherine Ramsland. I showed that entire documentary of her working with BTK, which is, if you're unfamiliar with Dennis come on. And what she said, I think, was very significant. I speculated yesterday that it is highly, highly probable that Bryan Kohberger knows all about BTK. Again, his professor, his teacher, probably a mentor to him. She had 10 years of communications with BTK. It's also highly probable that she gave lectures on him and what she learned from that experience that Bryan Kohberger most likely sat in on. There are parallels between BTK and Bryan Kohberger. Number one, which is just an insignificant parallel, but you have BTK and then Bryan's initials are BCK. That's not really relevant, just kind of a thing to point out. But the relevant things to point out are that BTK, Dennis Radar, committed his first murders at the age of 28, and his first murders were a quadruple homicide. Bryan Kohberger is 28 years old, and what we think are his first murders, and I do believe that they are quadruple homicide. So you see these parallels. If you watch that documentary on my live stream yesterday, I did post it in the comments, so you could just go watch it all the way through without any commentary from me. But you're going to see quite a few parallels. And so for Dennis Radar's daughter, if you know nothing about her, she has described her father as her best friend. They were very close. He used to take her fishing. He was a good dad. He definitely wore the psychopath mask very well. He called it cubing, meaning that he could switch from one side of the cube to the other very quickly. And he did that very successfully. You'll hear her in this interview say, I don't know BTK. I don't know that guy. She no longer considers her father her best friend, but the PTSD that he caused her is extreme. I have PTSD as well. I know what that's like. And I feel like her realizing that the woman, Dr. Catherine Ramslin, that helped BTK write his autobiography and also studied him, had phone calls, correspondence with him for 10 years, has a direct link to Bryan Kohberger because she was Bryan Kohberger's teacher. So I feel like for BTK's daughter, this was probably extremely triggering to her PTSD. The fact that her father could potentially still be harming people or helping others to harm people from inside of a jail cell is probably just mind-boggling to her. But these two people absolutely have one link, and that is Catherine Ramslin. Again, Bryan Kohberger's professor at DeSales University. And I want to watch this by BTK's daughter.
What did you first think when you heard that Dr. Ramslin was teaching Bryan Kohberger?
I found out Friday after Kohberger's arrest. I actually saw somebody mention Dr. Ramslin on Twitter, and then I realized, there was a connection there through DeSales University. Personally, my first reaction was just like my stomach churned, and I literally physically got ill. I live with chronic PTSD, so
it's really sad to me what that monster did to his children and his wife.
Anything unexpected can really throw me. And knowing that there was now connection back to Ramsland and she connects to my father, it was just a lot because I've been pretty invested in the Idaho case. I've been keeping up with the news and true crime community. I've been trying recordings.
These damn ads.
Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. So announced that look quietly invested in the case, and so I was pretty shocked to find out that there was a connection to Ramsland and potentially a connection to my father, but we're going to have to wait and see.
Do you think had any sort of communication with her?
Kohberger could definitely have had communication with my father. It's very common for criminology students and in general the true crime community or just fans or people that are curious in general to contact my father via mail. And occasionally they do speak to him on the phone. Knowing how personally connected Ramsland is to my father, I would not be surprised if Kohberger had at least tried to write my father. We're going to need to see letters. I mean, potentially, if Kohberger has contacted my father, there would be letters in Kohberger's house and also in my father's jail cell. I do think if there's a connection made, the FBI definitely need to go speak to my father. I wouldn't be surprised if there's one, but I need proof. So, people just kind of saying, okay, Kohberger was influenced by your father. Well, obviously we know he studied my father in criminology classes. He probably studied even heavier since he had Ramsland as a professor. But
please listen clearly to what exactly she is saying. She's just like literally speaking my thoughts. Clearly, he had a connection. Again, I just said it. It's so highly probable that he was very familiar with BTK. Listened to lectures from Ramsland, Dr. Ramsland on BTK. And so she's making a very good point here.
We need to find out if there's a deeper connection. It concerns me. My father's had several mail violations and various violations, including cyber stalking me. So it concerns me that my father continues to have access to the public and the public has access to my father.
Knowing what you know about Dr. Ramsland, do you think she may have had an inclination that something was off with Kohberger because she studied your father so closely and has been studying serial killers for so long?
I mean, at this point, we need to believe that Ramsland, in good faith, didn't have any clue that Kohberger was capable of this form of deviance. I mean, I have questions about how did he get into the master's and PhD programs. I have questions about was he background checked? Did his supposed drug use or previous drug use was that taken into consideration? On the other hand, after being raised by a psychopath, I do know that they can hide very easily. That they can put on several masks and basically change how they're interacting with you, mimic you. Basically, a lot of times they're saying to you what they think you want to hear. So I would assume Kohberger held himself in a certain way in a professional educational setting. I'm kind of shocked how far he's made it into the criminology fields. But it's happened before. My father has a criminal justice degree. D'Angelo, Golden State Killer, he has one. Bundy, I believe, studied criminal law.
Yes, she's correct. All of these serial killers, the Golden State Killer was actually a police officer. Bundy was in law school. This guy going for his PhD in criminology. So yes, these psychopaths do seek out this type of field because ultimately it will help them in understanding what law enforcement looks for, doesn't look for. And then I will submit to you that as much as people think that Bryan Kohberger is some kind of, mastermind killing genius, he's stupid. He is a dumb person. You have all of this education, and yet you don't even last 2 months and law enforcement has found you. Okay? I don't want to make this a competition between serial killers, but quite frankly, the BTK killer went for decades. The Golden State Killer, decades. Zodiac Killer has never been identified correctly. The Green River Killer. There are so many of them that went so long. And this idiot, and yes, I am calling him an idiot, okay? Because again, people lie, DNA doesn't. They have his DNA. Why do you think he's behind bars right now? They may not know the exact connection to the victims. That did concern me a little bit, but quite frankly, I think that the DNA is going to speak for itself. And I think the DNA, thank God for it, because I think that is exactly what is going to put him away. You can have all the character witnesses in the world. You can point your finger at everybody else, but you're going to have to explain why your DNA is mixed up in this crime scene. And knowing that Xana specifically, I think we heard there were 2 that had defensive wounds, but Xana Kernodle's dad specifically said that she put up a hell of a fight and that she had defensive wounds. So I don't know if this guy wore a mask. I have no idea what his attire was during this crime. But if she scratched him, if there was anything underneath her fingernails, anything of that nature, please explain that away. Please explain away why your DNA is either on these victims or right close near them and they're dead. You can't. So I love Nancy Grace's little snicker because she already knows what time it is. Good luck. Get yourself a very good defense team that, again, is most likely going to put these victims on trial. Oh, Kaylee was promiscuous, and it's the same thing they did to Suzanne Morphew. She was having an affair. Does that mean she deserves to be murdered? Absolutely not. I don't care what Kaylee's sexual history is. I don't care what any of their sexual history is. There is nothing that can justify what this guy has done. So if the defense chooses to put the victims on trial, which again is common, I hope the public and the jury thoroughly reject it.
So it happens. I mean, you can be an expert on psychopaths and they're still going to trick you.
Yes, and I had one of my subscribers, and we talked for several hours in the early morning today, and she had an epiphany, and she said, if this woman, Dr. Catherine Ramsland, is an expert on this, and she wasn't able to see the signs with him, what hope do any of the rest of us have? And is this a pseudoscience? And my answer, I understand that point of view. I understand someone looking at it that way. But I feel like BTK's daughter just answered that pretty perfectly. Psychopaths are very good at masking. They are very good at showing you what they want you to see. So even though she has 10 years of experience interviewing a serial killer, and she is an expert in this, never underestimate a psychopath. He could have been an A student in her class and showed no signs at all because of her expertise. He could have thought in his head, this woman will be able to pick me out right away. So I got to put on my best mask. I do not hold her accountable for not recognizing that this person could have been in the future a mass murderer who most likely would have turned into a serial killer. But fortunately for society and everyone else, especially the victims' families, he was caught. So again, I am just going to praise the hell out of DNA.
And honestly, somebody like Kohberger probably found that thrilling. You know, I don't know to what degree where his deviance caught up with him, or to what degree he knew he was deviant, or he was capable of this kind of act. But I'm assuming, based on what I know about, like, my father and other, you know, serial killers like my father, they kind of get off on being smart and thinking they're smarter than everybody in the room, and, you know, they're not going to get caught.
Funny that she uses that phrase, you know, they get off on being smart. They get off on, you know, being the smartest person in the room. I have continually said this, that I truly believe that Bryan Kohberger, from everything we've learned thus far, truly believes himself to be the smartest person in the room. And even with DNA, and even with all of this stuff, I think that this dude still firmly believes that he is going to get off of this, that somehow he's going to get out of this. I think they are absolutely going to use to their advantage that this was, again, quote unquote, a party house, and all of the DNA that's probably in there. But this affidavit is going to tell us a lot, and I can't wait to see it. And I'm sure Bryan Kohberger, with his narcissistic self, can't wait to see it as well. Just like that guy said, I think he was spot on with saying that he's theorizing that, you know, Bryan wants to see what they have on him.
Definitely can see that being the case here with Kohberger.
You know what it's like to be a family member of someone who's killed. I mean, what can you say about what Kohberger's family? I mean, he's just a suspect at this point, but what can you say about what his family may be going through?
Kohberger's family is going through utter hell, I assure you. I mean, at this moment, we have no reason to suspect that they knew. You know, we're going to have to wait on law enforcement, innocent until proven guilty. So, as of now, we have no reason to suspect they had any involvement, they had any knowledge. I know people are out there saying, well, what about the car that the father supposedly drove home Kohberger from college? I get it. But I was home for Christmas in December of 2004, stayed in my father's house probably for like a week and a half. That was the last time I saw him. He was already kind of involved for several months with BTK communications with the Wichita Police. I vaguely knew about that, but I was not, you know, invested in it. I wasn't really looking at it. And my father would have been the last person I would have suspected. So I got the FBI knock at like around noon in Michigan. I lived outside of Detroit at the time, but it was like a detective team with, what I understand, like support from a SWAT team that went in and notified my mom, because they didn't know if my father had wrecked the house. They didn't know what they were walking into. They didn't know if my mom was involved. So they needed to be safe. So I can understand the approach they took and why they did it at night. I also know, like, in my father's case, they highly suspected my father, but they wanted to confirm it with DNA. So they watched him, would set up like a car with detectives and kept an eye on him for days, surveillance, for 4 or 5 days before they arrested him, waiting on DNA to back. And they used my DNA. I was one of the familiar DNA cases to catch one of these people. I might have been the first, I'm not sure. So it's a lot. And it's a lot for his family. It's going to be a lot. My father pled guilty, so we didn't have to go to court. But if Kohberger pleads innocent, they're going to have to probably be witnesses in court, testify. I mean, you're talking years of therapy they're going to need. The quicker they can get into trauma therapy, the better. I made that mistake of not getting trauma therapy for 2 years. I thought I was going insane from the PTSD. So it's a lot. And they have every right now not to speak to the media, or every more right to speak if they want. But I would recommend not speaking until at least the case is over, the trial's over.
Kohberger has indicated through his public defender that, he is innocent essentially at this point. That's what he's saying. I mean, as a family member of someone in this situation, I mean, initially, did you believe that your dad was innocent, or did you immediately, look at the evidence and say, okay, I think he's guilty?
When the FBI agent notified me, I mean, he was like, your dad is BTK. It wasn't a question. I went into shock instantly, but I spent a while trying to defend my father. Saying, hey, he's a Boy Scout leader, he's a church leader, he's a really good dad, he took me camping and fishing, he's basically like my best friend. Like, there's no way this man did what you're saying. And for me, 7 of the murders took place before I was born. So I didn't even know about the BTK cases until 2004 when my father came back that in communication. So I'm asking, what are the dates? Because I'm trying to alibi him. I'm questioning what's happening. I said, you got the wrong guy. You had arrested the wrong guy in December. I'm asking for dates. And then he says 86. And then I remember that my neighbor lady down the street had been murdered in 85, and then it was a strangulation, and as far as I know, it was unsolved. So I actually, as far as I know, turned my father in to be looked at for the 8th murder, and they called it, the FBI agent stuff, they called it back. And then there was a 10th. So, but my father was confessing within 6 or 7 hours of that day. And so we were called by the FBI that night and told that he was confessing. And I literally was like, he's confessing to what? You're still just in complete shock and denial and arguing, with the FBI. And then they said they had found mementos that my father had taken from the victim's crime scenes inside my house. So that night I was still trying to alibi. So I was researching the cases, trying to alibi my father, trying to remember when I was a little girl. I mean, we're talking about when I was 6, 7. The oldest I was 12. And I came across an audio tape of my father where he had been reporting a homicide in 1977 before I was born, a little clip. And in hindsight, I knew right away it was my dad. As far as I know, I had never heard that audio clip before then. I was protected. I was 26. I was young, married, protected, living outside of Detroit, Michigan. Honestly, if I had been in Wichita, still living with my parents, not married, I probably would have had my nose thick in this case, in the BTK cases. And it could have been a completely different ending to the story if I had been. So within that first night, then I had to start coming to terms with that my father had done this. And the next day they announced that he had committed these 10 murders. And I ended up going home and being with my family. My mom was in denial, kind of go back and forth, go through this grieving process. She said it was like my father had died, like her husband had died. So everybody just dealt with it differently. And then there's letters early on between me and my father. I'm basically saying, look, if you did this, you're guilty. Take the plea, spare the community, spare the victim's family, spare us. And he did take the plea. But my family didn't speak to the media. We were told early on by the FBI, don't talk to media. It's going to make things worse. And I was like, what worse?
You know what? I'm not going to sit here and praise BTK or Chris Watts. They're just horrific monsters of humans, if that's what you want to call them. But I will praise the fact that both of those monsters did spare their own families and the victims' families of a trial where, a lot of things would have been revealed. They spared that and they did plead guilty. So I do not believe that we are going to see this at all with Bryan Kohberger. Again, I will repeat what I have been saying for the last several days. This man truly believes himself to be the smartest man in the room. When we have heard from former classmates and things like that, they pointed out that he wanted them to know that he was smart. That he was, highly intellectual, that he would make this point with them. So I hate to say it, but I truly believe that this trial is going to be a circus because this idiot, and I'm going to call him that, and he could sue me if he wants. I don't give a damn with his little public defender. But he is an idiot. And I do believe that he is such a narcissist and believes that he has so much knowledge in criminology and all of that, that he is going to fight of the way and try to get out of this. And I don't think he's going to spare anyone, because if we know anything about psychopaths, they do not care about other people. That is just a fact. His main goal at this time is most likely to just get off of this, to get out of this. It's not going to matter to him that his mommy's crying in the court, that the victims' families are going to be staring him down. He's not going to care about any of that. What he is going to care about is himself and getting out of this. And that DNA, again, is such, it is going to be the centerpiece of this case. Continuing.
You know, by the first day, I saw a video of you knocking on the door. Like, that was my reality of cameras, you know, in my hallway, in my apartment, people knocking on the door trying to get interviews. I know you guys have, I get that now. Early on, I was so angry. I was angry at the media, angry at the FBI. I just angry at everything. So,
I mean, was knocking on the door yesterday, but sometimes people
it's your job.
And also, like, sometimes you're surprised they want to talk.
They want to talk, and that's a right of everyone to talk or not to talk. You know, and we thought not talking, you know, sort of being that good Midwestern shutdown, quiet, private family was the answer. But I was suffering. I was dying inside. I literally was dying inside for years. And so when I finally did start talking, and I started with my hometown newspaper because they knew the story and they handled it well. You know, I wasn't even supposed to start talking in the fall of 14. It just happened. But talking helped me in a way nothing else could. So even talking to you helps. And then talking about it, because it's so rare for somebody like me to actually be able to speak up and willing to speak up. That I've had thousands of people reach out to me since I spoke up saying I'm helping them because they have a criminal in their family, they have mental illness, or they have trauma, you know, or they've committed a crime or they need to forgive somebody. So I never expected that side of it, and that's all grace, you know, to be able to sit here like and say like, hey, I've been there, and you will get through this and you will survive, you know. And I've been there where my family is still accused of hiding things. It's been almost 18 years. And my mom is still accused of having hid things that she knew about my father.
I really hate that for perpetrators' families, that this is often the case where people will be like, how didn't the wife know? That's your husband. You had to know. And like she said, you know, it's been all of these years and you still have people saying, well, his wife had to know. His daughter had to know. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They were literally living with a psychopath serial killer who, by his own admission, was able to switch faces very quickly and very easily. His wife did not know a damn thing. Neither did his daughters. And I already see that with Bryan Kohberger, with people questioning, did his dad know? He drove back with him. Listen, that's common. That is common. For college students, for their parents to go up there and drive back with them, that is not uncommon at all. I am not going to say anything about Bryan Kohberger's family. The only thing I'll say is that I really did think that it was very weird when Brian Enton went up to the family's door and his dad's first response was, "It's not my problem." I thought that was weird. But other than that, who knows? I don't believe that this family knew about this heinous crime. I think this is why they are standing behind him, because like she's describing it, you go into a denial. You know, if somebody came to me and said this about my son, my reaction would be absolutely not. My son's a good kid. There's no way in hell that he committed these murders. So I'm not going to hold it against them. It's irritating to see the statement they released. But I do understand, I guess. Do I think he's innocent? No.
I mean, one man's actions 40 some years ago still affects me daily, affects his grandchildren, affects these 7 families, affects the community. Law enforcement that spent decades of their career trying to catch my father. I mean, do you know what that does to like a detective? I mean, and now you're talking about the Idaho murders and those young policemen that went in first. Do you know how much like trauma counseling they're going to need? How much care these families are going to need? A lot. You're going to go on to the next horror and the next horror, but there's so many people profoundly affected for the rest of their lives and lost. I mean, we lost 4 young people. We lost their chances of being married, having children, you know, being positive like influences on society. We just lost them for no reason other than some guy couldn't control his deviant behavior and didn't ask for help. There was nothing stopping my father from walking into a station in January of '74 and saying, I'm getting ready to commit this crime. Can you help me and put me in a mental hospital? There was nothing stopping Kohberger from doing that. They just don't care. They're sad. They have this line. We have lines. We have moral lines we don't cross. They don't have one. Or it's very thin.
Kohberger being a criminology major and now getting his PhD, clearly interested in serial killers. Do you think the fascination is part of the problem?
I don't know. It's so messy. I mean, you've got to train young minds to catch these guys. You've got to train them to catch them faster, right? So you're going to have to educate on these crimes. You've got to put my all these big guys are in the textbooks. You've got to put them in there because you got to study them. But where is that line of where it becomes a fascination or an obsession? And where does it become a line of trying to one up these guys and commit the perfect crime? That's, in my opinion, that's where we're at. In time, we're going to be able to tell. But I feel like I have a question. Did he join criminology to want to learn to maybe become like a detective or a forensic psychologist, or did he go into it knowing he had deviant behavior? Because my father knew he was a deviant from childhood, according to my father. So, but we're talking about with my father somebody that didn't get help in the 40s and the 50s. There was no help. There were no labels for these guys. Nowadays, we would call my father saying he had a conduct disorder. Okay, so what's Kohberger's past? What you don't just walk into a house and do this. Now, maybe with
I absolutely love this girl because she's obviously very schooled, unfortunately, by her father. And just take note of her name. She changed her name. She changed her last name. Her last name is no longer Radar. It's Rawson. She is married, but they didn't want any connection with him. And I do not blame them in any way, but the questions that she's asking are the questions that I would like answered as well. What was Kohberger's childhood like? And I'm not blaming his parents. Please be clear on that. I just want to know his early formative years, because with people like him, like she said, you don't just walk into a house and just do this. There had to be years of buildup, of fantasy, of planning for him to do this. So this most likely started early for him. I do believe, just like Dennis Radar, who wanted to be a police officer, by the way, and he was turned down 3 different times by police departments to become a police officer. Thank God. But Bryan Kohberger was in criminology. He very well could have definitely become a police officer or a psychologist or anything of that nature. And I think that Brian Eaton asked a very pertinent question. Does this help? And I think her answer is spot on. These guys must be studied. They must be analyzed. You look at the time frame of how quickly Bryan Kohberger was apprehended. Again, I believe it was 7 weeks after the murders. That's very quickly. If this was back in the 70s, he could have had a very long, quote unquote, career as a serial killer. So I don't know if police training helped in finding him. Clearly, the car was a huge deal. And then again, DNA is just golden here.
Was his first murders, in my opinion. Time will tell. But there's a lead up of behavior from my father was breaking and entering, stalking, you know, drawing these things, fantasize. My father's a sexual sadistic psychopath. I don't think that's the MO here with Kohberger.
I don't either.
There's all this hidden behavior that leads up to this, and why in this day and age, with all the help that there is, you know, working with these world-renowned, you know, criminologists, why is nobody catching this? I mean, I don't know what that says if somebody is that deviant and is working academically with these people and they're not being caught. I mean, what chance do us regular people have? We don't really. Because
I think just the fact, I mean, you said it already, but the fact that, you know, he was studying with this professor that has this intimate relationship with your father, it's just very, very strange.
It bothers me on a lot of levels because I know how narcissistic, pathological my father is, and how he wants to be known as this really bad man. He wants to be remembered as that. You know, was Kohberger seeking that out to be the next Bundy, the next BTK? I mean, people are even saying, hey, Kohberger's got the initial BTK. Now, you can't blame him for what he was born with his name, but at some point did it influence him later on? You know, did he think that was neat? You know, did that drive some of this? I don't know. I mean, the only person that really has those answers is Kohberger. So it's gonna take after the trial that he's even willing to talk. And if he's honest about it, because with somebody like my father, you can't necessarily believe what they're saying. Like you have to take it with a grain of salt, unfortunately. You know, it's senseless. It's so senseless. It's so senseless and pointless and devastating. I want to figure out how to stop it. Like, it's hard to be the kid of this guy and live with this, you know, and then see somebody else go do this and wonder, did your dad influence him? Did your dad talk to him? Like, was he studying my father outside of academics? I mean, am I ever going to get answers to that? I don't know. And it doesn't matter. Thousands of people have told me it's not my fault that I couldn't have helped my father when I was alive as a kid, but I still carry it with me every day. So, I mean, I speak up and do this because I think I have some answers, because I'm really, really sick of people saying, like, psychopaths don't have feelings, you know, that it's all just a shell. And that's not how I knew my father. And the reason they hide so well is because for my father, he could turn it off and on and show you what he wanted to show you. But when he was with me, he was my dad. He wasn't ever BTK. I don't know BTK. There's only one person that survived BTK. So I'm interested, does Kohberger sort of have like that, those shells and layers who he's showing people? I don't know. We'll probably find out in time. Maybe. I'm just really, really, really thankful they caught him so quickly. You know, excellent work on Ellie's part. And nowadays with DNA, there isn't the perfect crime. It doesn't exist, not anymore. So if anybody out there is trying to do it, just don't. You're going to get caught and ruin your life and everybody else's life around you.
So I thought that was a extremely
fact. Whenever a man starts to like a woman.
Okay, I don't know what the hell that is. That's not what I'm trying to play. Anyway. So, but yeah, I think the interview was extremely poignant because I am very, very interested in the connection between Dr. Catherine Ramsland being Bryan Kohberger's professor, teaching him, and also her connection, 10-year-long connection with BTK. It's highly, highly interesting. I don't know what's going to come of this. Obviously, I don't think any of us do. But I do think it's really telling in that press conference that they said that, you know, they were theorizing that Bryan Kohberger wanted to waive his extradition rights so that he could get back and see what they have against him. Because I think this guy is obviously, I think he is already planning his defense, and I'm speculating really hard on, did he plan for this? Did he plan for if he was caught? Because I'm having a very difficult time believing that this person focused on forensics, left DNA behind, which in the beginning of the stream, you will see Nancy Grace and them saying that they did use Ancestry.com, something of that nature. It was a relative that had submitted their DNA, and that's what led to Bryan Kohberger. But I'm wondering, with his knowledge of forensics, how his input is going to taint this case. And again, I can't get circus out of my mind, because I feel like it is going to be a circus. I feel like he is going to say all kinds of things. You know, yeah, my DNA was in that house. I went to a party there. You know, he just, I feel like there's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of emphasis put on the house being a party house, people in and out, all of that kind of stuff. And again, I do think they are going to, unfortunately, put these victims on trial, as far as saying, you know, they were promiscuous, or they were, you know, just let anybody in their house. So it could have been anybody, because they didn't even lock their doors. They didn't have blinds. All of that kind of crap. I very much think that they are going to put these victims on trial. The defense team for Bryan Kohberger. That's exactly what I think they're going to do. And I think he's going to be very, very active in his own defense, because, again, smartest guy in the room. So he's definitely going, in my opinion, to be putting a lot of input and being a very active, participant in his own defense, because he thinks he's that damn smart. And again, people lie. DNA does not. You are going to have to explain why this man's DNA was at this crime scene. And I hate to say this, and I don't want to be vulgar, but there is a part of me that is secretly praying, with knowing that Xana specifically fought him back. She had defensive wounds, that she scratched him, that there was his DNA underneath her fingernails or something of that nature. I am sincerely hoping for that, because, again, I would love to see a defense attorney attempt to explain that away. Clearly, Xana has a boyfriend, or had a boyfriend, which was Ethan. Clearly, they were together. They were together that night. So you can't make the case that, you know, she was having some affair with Bryan Kohberger, and that's why, you know, she was scratching on him during a sexual liaison or something of that nature. No, you can't make that case. She was literally home with her boyfriend. So if there's anything, I'm just praying that this DNA is underneath their fingernails, something of that nature where it literally cannot be explained away. If it's Kaylee, who has the, DNA on her, I'm worried about that a little bit, because I'm already seeing ridiculous things like, oh, they dated 2 years ago. They hooked up 2 years ago. I don't believe that for 2 seconds. Kaylee clearly had a boyfriend, which was Jack. And Bryan Kohberger wasn't in Washington. He wasn't at Washington State University. He has not been there very long. He was still on the East Coast at DeSales College. So, no, I don't believe that they met 2 years ago and all of this nonsense. But I do believe that if Kaylee is the one that has the DNA on her from him, that they are going to persecute her. I really, really do. And I feel like they are going to attempt to, say that she was with him or he came over there with her and they had a liaison and that's why, his DNA was on her, which is complete BS. In my opinion, that's just complete BS. I don't believe that for 2 seconds. And then they're going to have to explain away why Kaylee was calling her ex-boyfriend, 6 times, 3 times from her phone, 3 times from Maddie's phone, or Maddie calling him. I'm not sure. But either way, there were 6 phone calls made to Jack Decor, which is Kaylee's ex-boyfriend. She had just broke up with him just weeks prior. They had a long relationship, 5-6 years. And so, you're going to have to explain away if Bryan Kohberger and his defense is going to go with, Kaylee and him had some kind of rendezvous. Well, why was she calling her ex-boyfriend 6 times? I feel that this man is 100% going to be convicted. Absolutely. Because again, I'll say it for the 18th time. People lie. DNA does not. People lie. Text messages don't. People lie. Phone calls don't. People lie, but phone pings don't. So it's rumored that Bryan Kohberger, the pings on his phone were indicating that he was stalking them for weeks. And listening to that press conference and them saying, we've read the affidavits. We've read them. And, he goes into, I read them, and then immediately says, I think that Bryan Kohberger is waiving this extradition so that he can get back and see what kind of evidence they have against him. So, to me, that is the police saying they have him dead to rights. He's just curious about what his mistakes were and what he did. Hey, Raven. Raven is saying, Jess, if you remember, they kept the victim's hands in gloves to preserve any DNA. Maybe that's why the police chief seems so confident that they have the right guy. Yes, exactly. And again, I'm hoping that DNA was under Xana's fingernails or something of that nature, because then the case cannot be made that Xana was linking up with this guy or anything like that. Her boyfriend was there and also murdered with her. So clearly this guy's the killer. Again, if it's under Kaylee or Maddie's fingernails, I still think they have him dead to rights, but it just leaves room open for the defense to say, Kaylee was single, she invited him over, all this kind of nonsense. But I think this defense is just going to try to create a lot of chaos, a lot of red herrings, point at a lot of different people, most likely put the victims on trial instead of him. But ultimately, I feel like there's just no getting around that DNA. There's no explaining that away. And then the phone data. The phone data is also going to be the other key to this case. It is going to provide a lot of information, especially his phone. Where his phone was pinged, all of that kind of stuff to show that he was stalking them. And that's going to be very interesting to see, or not to see, but I guess to hear what was on Kaylee's phone, Maddie's phones, and all of their tech. I think is going to be crucial to this case. So while it was initially concerning to me that they didn't have the why, they just had the how. I don't know that the why is going to be as important as it is usually in other cases, because this is a different kind of murder. This is a person that is a psychopath that most likely stalked them, wasn't really well known by them, and committed this murder. So the why almost becomes a little irrelevant, because there is no good why to why someone would do something like this, other than the fact that they are extremely mentally disturbed. And I don't believe that Idaho has the insanity defense, which is great. And they also have the death penalty, which is also, in my opinion, if you don't believe in the death penalty, that is fine. I definitely believe in it. And I love that Idaho has it, because I 100% think that the prosecution is going to go for the death penalty in this case. I just cannot see how they wouldn't, with his background, his knowledge of crimes, of serial killers, of all of that kind of stuff, and committing a quadruple murder for potentially his first murder. Extremely dangerous person. Completely unfit for society. There is just no way, I have to say this, but if this guy is guilty, that he will ever, ever, ever be fit to be in society. There is no rehabilitating this. So Raven is saying, hopefully the other roommates that weren't harmed can verify he wasn't invited over. Hopefully, but Dylan and Bethany, the surviving roommates, got home earlier. I think they were believed to return home around 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. I'm sorry. And then Xana and Ethan got home, and then Kaylee and Maddie last got home. So I don't know if they would be able to say that or not. Maybe. Grandma, I hope he gets the firing squad. Me too. I would actually like to see this guy. Like, I don't want to promote any violence here, but sometimes you don't need a firing squad, because sometimes the inmates in a prison will take care of that for you, aka Jeffrey Dahmer. They definitely took care of him. So I'm kind of hoping for that kind of justice. If there is a death row inmate that is never ever getting out, well, what's one more charge against you, because you're not getting out any darn way. Okay. So Nicole is saying, Gypsy, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to, just because of the timeline. If they got home almost an hour before Kaylee and Maddie, and 45 minutes before Ethan and Xana. So I don't know if they were intoxicated or not. That doesn't matter to me. They are not on trial here. But if they were, and they just went to bed, locked their doors and went to bed, they may not have known anything, if anybody invited anybody over or anything like that. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm still wondering how Bryan Kohberger came in contact with any of these victims, how he became aware of them, how he picked them as his targets. I'm very interested in that, how he picked them as the targets. Did he see them at the corner club? Did he see them on Twitch on a food truck video? How did he pick them? Because I've been saying this, and I'm going to repeat it again, that I think Bryan Kohberger, just like BTK's daughter was saying, did he know that he had this dark side to him a long time ago? Did this influence his major in college? Did he want to take this to literally become a better killer? I don't know the answer to that. But what I theorize is that he most likely was having these fantasies, these urges to kill prior to picking his targets. I don't believe that he saw Kaylee or Maddie or Xana and said, you know what, I think I'm going to plan a murder. I think he already had these thoughts. And I think he was just waiting to pick the perfect target, or what he thought was the perfect targets. And I think it was them. And I think it was them probably for a number of reasons known to us at this point. Again, the house known as a party house, a lot of, people in and out, lack of blinds, them not, I think they felt safe there. We know that the last murder in Moscow was in 2015. So I think they felt pretty safe. And, if they were intoxicated, came home and just forgot to lock the door or something of that nature, I do think that they were quote unquote easier targets for him because of that reason, because of the intoxication, the lack of really security around the house. We saw in the body cam footage how dark it was in front of that house, which really stunned me, because they have a porch light on the front of that house, but if it's not turned on, it is literally pitch black. You cannot see anything. Those police officers were walking up to that house and it's just completely dark. The only thing you can really see is the light in the windows. But as far as the front of the house, what we know is that the front door was left wide open in this house. And I know that they were theorizing that the back sliding door was the entry and exit point for this killer. But with the front door open, I'm going to surmise that he went right out of that front door. It's so dark back there. I don't know if they had the back porch light on or not, but it's much more lit up back there. If they didn't have the front porch light on, and I was a killer, which I'm definitely not, but if I was, I'd be going out that front door, because the cover of darkness, helps conceal things. So, yeah, I have to be honest and say that I am not looking forward to this trial. And the reason that I'm not is just because I feel like the defense attorneys and Bryan himself are just going to make this a complete shit show. in my opinion. I believe that. I wish this guy would accept responsibility because, again, even BTK saw the writing on the wall when he said it. Well, when they said they had my DNA, I knew it was over, so he knew it. The gig is up, it's done. But Bryan Kohberger, the narcissism is so real with this guy. And, him trying to exonerate himself. It's going to be interesting to watch this narcissist attempt to use his schooling and all the things that he learned to try to get out of this crime. That part will be interesting and study worthy. But quite frankly, at the end of the day, we are dealing with 4 dead people that were at the very beginning of their adult life. And screw that guy. Okay. I just, for some reason, looking at him, reading the family statement, reading his ridiculous, I can't wait to get back to exonerate myself. It pisses me off. I'm just going to be honest with you. It actually makes me mad. I think he's disgusting for saying that. Yes, in our country, you are innocent until proven guilty. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because there are tons of people, well, not tons, but there are people that are wrongly convicted. But with this guy, DNA, I just have 3 letters. DNA. Robbie, something tells me based on the look on his face, both times we saw Bryan today, he's a little worried at this point. Yeah, did you see his little glance over at the media? See his little glance. He should be worried. He should be worried because, again, he's literally schooled in forensics. He was taught by a professor that specialized in forensics. They are straight up coming out and saying that they have his DNA at the crime scene. So, yeah, I would surmise that he is a little worried, and he should be. Jess, did you see him today being brought in? He looks arrogant and confident. I did too. Robbie took his look as being worried. I took his look as being arrogant. Please never underestimate a narcissist's need for attention. Please don't ever underestimate that. Don't underestimate a psychopath's mask. Okay? Robbie saw that in him. What I saw in him is what Raven saw in him. Arrogance. And I feel like he's been showing that little by little. This trial, it worries me in the way that this guy is going to victimize these victims' families all over again. Sitting inside of a courtroom behind your child's killer and having to look at pictures of their dead, mutilated bodies and hearing what happened to them and all of that stuff, it's extremely traumatizing. Extremely traumatizing. Look at any family member that has had to go through that. Listen to what they have to say. That shit is traumatizing. It is PTSD inducing. So it's just very disgusting to me that he's going to try to exonerate himself. And I just cannot help my sarcasm at this point. I can't help it. Because I look at this guy and I get the sickest feeling looking at him. And despite Pat Brown, the criminal profiler, I haven't liked Pat Brown in this case, to be honest with you. Because she's like, oh, everybody thinks he just looks creepy because you guys know what he did. No, Pat. If I never saw this guy a day in my life and I seen that mugshot with him in his little turtle suit on, which was the green vest, for those of you who don't know, which I'm sure all of you guys do, when we saw that initial picture of him in the jail with that green vest on, that is called a turtle suit. It is a suicide vest. That's what he had on. But if nobody told me any crime that he committed and I looked at this guy, I still would be completely creeped out. His eyes are dead to me, and they're dead and then simultaneously cocky. That's what I see when I look at him. Hey, Al. I got to catch up on the day still, but yeah, poor families. I have a feeling it'll be torture for the fams. I do too. I really do. And I feel like this is the guy to do it. I mean, again, I don't want to sit here and clap for any serial killers, but something has to be said for Dennis Rader to take his daughter's advice and spare their family and spare the victim's family of a trial and just plead guilty, which he did. And the same thing for Chris Watts. No trial. He just pled guilty. And it spares people more heartache. You know, just put yourself, if you can imagine, in their shoes, where you are sitting again in a courtroom. You know, they're going to show all of the evidence. They're not going to hide things because the family is there. They are trying to prosecute this person. So, yes, there are most likely going to be very large pictures of the victims at the crime scene, the wounds on their bodies, and what they look like. And for the families to see that is going to be extremely traumatizing. If it were my child, I would absolutely sit behind this a-hole every single day inside of that trial. But if they were going to start showing pictures of my child mutilated and stabbed to death, I do not think that I would be able to look at that. I think I would absolutely put my head down, close my eyes, look away. I just don't think that I would be able to look at that or even want that to be like my last image of my child. Allie is saying, is it like shark eyes to you guys? To me, Al, it's like dead eyes, like dark, dead eyes. Squeaky wheel. Mama and Daddy Kohberger raised a little shark. I psychopath. Imagine their surprise. That's right, boys and girls. There's a boogeyman, and his name is Bryan Kohberger. That is Squeaky Will's opinion. I absolutely have to say that. I am not trying to get sued. Okay? So, you know, he has not been convicted yet. We have to say allegedly, in my opinion, I believe, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm really sorry. I don't know what happened there. I got taken off my own screen and all of that. So I really wanted to read the comments, and now I can't see them. Let me see if I can still see them on my phone screen. Yeah, because there was a couple of you guys that I wanted to read, but I kind of had to refresh this. So Grandma said Kohberger is holding previous serial killers on a pedestal. That's why he studies them. And then his ego won't let him see how stupid he himself is. He sees the other killers as stupid. Yes, I agree with that, Grandma. Raven, I've said from the get-go that he is going to go for insanity plea. He can't. Not in Idaho. They don't have that. When he finds out what evidence they have, he has set that in motion from the time of his arrest. Well, if that is the case, he's more stupid than I thought. Because, again, you cannot use the insanity defense in Idaho. So good luck to him trying to do that nonsense. In your opinion, Squeaks. Exactly. In your opinion. You got to say that, Squeaky Wheel. Raven. Jess, I wonder if his dad is covering something for him. Was evidence thrown out of the car? Raven, I really do not want to speculate on that. Because this often happens to families. People have a very difficult time wrapping their head around, how did you not know? You know this person. This is your husband, or this is your wife. This is your son. This is your daughter. You had to know what they were doing. No, they don't. No, they don't. Psychopaths, again, are extremely skilled in masking who they are. So I do not really want to speculate or throw his family under the bus by speculating and saying that they may have been covering for him, because as of now there's just no evidence of that. And if his family knew nothing, they're victims in this as well. So I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. If my child had done this, and then suddenly I'm being accused of hiding evidence for them, or being a Roberta Laundrie, or, and I had no idea. So I just, I really don't want to do that to his family. It really did irritate the life out of me when they said, oh, we're going to stand behind our son and brother and love him. At the same time, again, I'll repeat that I understand. This has to be a major, major shock for them. If it's true that he was a heroin addict in high school, and I suspect it is true, this has to be such a devastating blow for them. Because if you've ever dealt with addicts, if they turn their life around the way that Bryan Kohberger did, got off the drugs, went and got his bachelor's degree in psychology, went and got his master's degree in criminal justice, was going for his doctorate in criminology, the last thing on the planet that you want to believe is that your son has done something worse than a heroin addiction. And make no mistake, addiction doesn't just hurt the addict. It hurts the entire family. Everyone becomes sick with this person. So again, if it's true that he was a heroin addict, as a person that has dealt with several family members that have been opiate addicts, it is a living nightmare. And I say that in the truest terms. It is an absolute living nightmare. So I can imagine he put them through hell. And so for them to see their son go on, turn his life around, be this upstanding person that is probably going to be a police officer or a psychologist or, something like that. And then for this to hit them, I imagine there's a lot of denial and not wanting to believe that this is true. Yeah, I hate Roberta too, Grandma. She's absolutely disgusting. Raven, I say that partly. Why did his dad fly in to drive home with him? But what gets me is the car. Were they the only ones not looking for the car that was all over the news? Well, I thank you for bringing this up because I thought about this myself, and I think it was his mother. I believe it was his mother that said, he went all the way across the country with no friends, no family, no nothing. I feel like that was intentional. I feel like that was intentional for him. I feel like he wanted to get. Huh? Are you going to use it? Yeah, you can have them. Really? Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome. Bye, everybody. There's Jace checking in. But yeah, I feel like he wanted to move that far away because not everything makes national news. This is on the West Coast. We're over here on the East Coast. If you're not a person that really follows true crime or really listens to the news, there's a possibility that people in Pennsylvania didn't really know about this case. They didn't really know what happened. Maybe he mentioned it to his parents, something like that. Like, oh yeah, there was this crazy murder. And they're like, oh wow, okay, moving on. That's really sad for the families. But, I just, yes, it was all over the news. I'll tell you, I don't watch the news unless it's true crime news. I really don't. I don't watch the news. So there's plenty of people that no longer trust media, news and things like that. And they don't watch it. They get their information from YouTube or TikTok or Twitter or, things like that instead of the mainstream media. So there definitely is a possibility that there's a lot of people in PA that he knew that didn't know anything about this case. Grandma's saying Mom said that to garner sympathy for him. She may have, but I'm looking at it more like if he was already having these dark fantasies and things like that, that the best thing to do is definitely move very far away. Because me and Allie were talking about this very early this morning about his move to Washington State University. And I said, why did he pick that college? Was there something special about that college? Ted Bundy went to that college. Okay, there's another connection to a serial killer. But why did he pick this college? Was their criminology program top notch? Is that why he picked them? Was the tuition cheaper? What was the reasoning behind him picking college 2,500 miles away from everyone that he knew? Because I'm just wondering if it was because he had intentions on becoming a serial killer. He had intentions on killing people. And you want to be as far away from anyone that knows you to do that. Because then you're less likely to be suspected. There's nobody, from what we understand, he really didn't make a lot of close connections to people at Washington State University. He wasn't there very long anyway. I think August is what is being said. It is when he came to Washington. So, squeaky wheel. The frenzied, chaotic way these murders were carried out does make me wonder if the person doing it was high on meth, heroin, bath salts, cocaine, or all the above. Maybe all be a fog to BK. Well, I would probably exit out heroin because heroin addicts can barely stand up, let alone keep their eyes open. So I'm going to cross that off the list. If he was engaging in any sort of drug use, I would most likely go with meth, or even cocaine, I guess, because cocaine's kind of a little common with college students and things like that. Meth is obviously, make you go a little crazy. But I would rule heroin out just because of the way it makes people. You see people on heroin nodding out. They can barely stay awake. They're folded in half, standing up. Just not the type of person that you think is going to go into a house full of adrenaline and kill 4 people. So, Billy Cole, what's bath salts? A very bad drug, Billy. Let me just give you a clinical definition of what bath salts is so we can all understand that. So this is from Wikipedia. It says bath salts are a group of recreational designer drugs. The name derives from instances in which the drugs were disguised as bath salts. The white powder, granulates, and crystals often resemble Epsom salts, but differ chemically. Yes, Allie, Florida man. If you have never seen that, Billy Cole, the guy that was in Florida on bath salts, he literally went up to, I believe it's been some years, but I think he went up to a homeless man and literally started to just eat his face. And I mean eat his face off. So there's that. Bath salts probability, but I don't know. I would just go more with meth or cocaine for a crime like this if he was on any substances at all. Obviously, again, it's heavily rumored that he had a heroin addiction. So hardcore drugs are not a stranger to him. So, doing cocaine, doing meth probably wouldn't be a very big deal for him. But I want to say that him finally being able to act out this fantasy that he had with murdering and killing was probably enough of a drug, so to speak, enough of a high that, and I think that Bryan Kohberger, I don't think he's smart. I don't give a damn what anybody says. I do not think this idiot is smart at all. But I do think he was probably smart enough to know that he needed to be clear-minded to commit these crimes. So I don't know if he would take any substances while doing this. And then afterwards, for a killer like him, again, the high that he got off of murdering was probably all the substance that he needed. So let's carry on here. Billy Cole. Oh my God. Yeah, I know. That was kind of crazy, right, Billy? Oh my God. Next, we won't be able to buy damn bath salts. Oh, girl. Or actually, I don't know if you're a girl or a guy, but person. Bath salts have been a thing for a long time. Yeah, you can look it up. You can definitely Google that, and I'm sure that video is still floating around on YouTube somewhere, but it is graphic, and I will warn you before you watch that. Grandma, under a highway overpass, attacked a man, ate his nose, his ears. Yes, he literally ate his face. Yep, cops showed up to help and were shocked. They were. It was quite an insane scene with the bath salts guy. Because I mean, you walk up upon another human, and they are literally eating someone's face off. Imagine that sort of shock. And Grandma, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they were trying to like get him off, and he just literally continued to do this. Squeaky wheel. The car BK was driving was a 2015 Hyundai Elantra. He transferred the tags from PA to Idaho right after the killings. Oh, interesting. I'm sure he pointed that out to numerous other students and neighbors. His outs. Huh. Interesting. I did not hear that, but thank you for sharing that with me. Marshall and Daisy's mama. Did I hear correctly during the press conference that they had to have additional probable cause to serve him in the middle of the night? Do we need to replay that? Additional probable cause. I wonder if that would be the DNA, because they did say that the FBI was following the Pennsylvania FBI was following him around for 4 days. And that Bryan was being really careful. Like they followed him into a grocery store, and he was wearing gloves on his hands. So I don't know if they were following him to snatch something of his that he discarded in any way to 100% match that DNA. I'm not sure if that maybe would be what the additional probable cause is. Quite frankly, listening to that press conference, and I'll zero in on what the reporter did, and I did zero in on it before I heard him say that, but when he said that he believes that Bryan wants to know what they have against him, and that he had already read the affidavit, I think that they think that they have a very strong case against him. Again, they don't seem to know exactly the why. And in cases like this, you might not ever know the why exactly. But that DNA is just, it's everything. Give me just, oh wait, never mind. I thought I was going to have to go in the house for a second, but it looks like I don't. Give me just a second, guys, just for a minute. Grandma's saying yes, his lips. Jess, yes, he kept eating. Yeah, he did. I remember that. I remember the cop showing up, and he just literally kept eating this man's face off. So, yeah. Billy Cole, what do? You got to be in the criminality profession. No, I did take criminal justice in college. I did not get my degree. I didn't get to finish. And then I did take behavioral science in college as well. And I also didn't get my degree for that. So both of those efforts thwarted by pregnancy. I had really rough pregnancies. I'm the type that, the womb works well, but I'm like deathly sick during my pregnancies. So unfortunately, I have not gotten my degree yet, but it is absolutely on my list of things to do before I leave this earth. So, yeah. Grandma, here's the link to the face eating story. Yeah, if you guys want to click on that, go ahead, but can you wait till after the live stream? Squeaky wheel. To clarify, the cops were asking for a 2011-2013 Elantra. That didn't match BK's car. No, his was a 2015. So, they were off by a couple of years. I suspect some of his neighbors and friends likely asked him, but he skirted around it with the model year. Yeah, and I also wonder if law enforcement did that on purpose. Yeah, we're looking for a 2011, 2013 Elantra to make him feel like a little less, or maybe put him at ease, like, oh, I don't have that. I have a 2015 Elantra, so it's not me. I feel like this guy's playing Shaggy big time. If you guys don't get that reference, don't worry about it. It's a song. Allie is saying you don't need motive to prove your case, but it does help to tell the story to jurors. Helps connect us. Yeah, exactly. We were talking a lot this morning, Al, and I agree with that. You don't need a motive to prove your case. That DNA is going to prove so much. But exactly, I'm going to echo exactly what you said, because that's exactly what I've said, is that, they are going to have to present something to the jury that is some sort of story per se, to help them understand, because that's everyone's question. Why? Everyone is going to want to know that why. So if they, like Kaylee's family has said, they are starting to notice connections between her and him that they are not ready to discuss as of yet. Again, I'll go back to the tech data, the phone data for all of them, especially Bryan. It's going to show a lot. And I think, again, that these are going to be the two main things in this case: DNA and cell phone data. And I think that's exactly what is going to nail him to the floor. And I think the only thing that the prosecution really needs to do is present the jury with a reasonable explanation as to his why. Like, here's all his phone data. He was stalking them, all of this kind of stuff. But I don't think they're going to have to try that hard to put together this elaborate story for the jury. And I don't think that they should. I don't think that they should confuse the jury with a lot of talk about psychopathy and, narcissism and all of that kind of thing. I think that not everybody is knowledgeable in those subjects. So you don't really want to confuse the jury, but you kind of want to lay out a story that is believable, that you can bring receipts and show them, yes, he stalked them. He did this. He was here when they were here. He was sitting out in front of their house. He was watching them in the corner club, or whatever may have you. And I think that will work just fine enough, because again, that DNA is going to be everything for this case. What's Squeaky talking about, Grandma? What is Squeaky saying? Grandma, I drove from Washington to Florida and never got pulled over once. Yeah, you know what? They got pulled over twice. Bryan and his father got pulled over twice, both times let go. I don't hold that against the police that pulled them over. They had no idea that this guy, was potentially a quadruple killer. So I think they pulled them over once for speeding and once for following too closely to another car. So those are just routine traffic stops. Again, these police were not alerted to anything. They had no idea who this guy is. And I seen one YouTuber, I'm not going to name him, but they were making a very big deal. The cops let him go. They let him go. Well, yeah, they let him go. They didn't know who the hell he was. They weren't alerted to anything. So, Grandma is saying, I've been driving 40 years without being pulled over. Wonder what BK was thinking about that. Why twice? Yeah, speeding and following too closely to another car. Squeaky wheel at Grandma. Cops don't like pulling over grandmas with wrenches. They never win. Okay, that's funny. Hallie, he was shit his pantaloons. He was shitting his pantaloons. Okay, that's hilarious that you just used pantaloons. I don't know if my cousin is still watching. I'm not going to tell the story, Christy, but we have a really funny story with that word, pantaloons. I'll tell you privately one day, Allie. Grandma, I mean it. Never, ever been pulled over in my life. Oh, God, I have. My driving record is not something I'm proud of. Now, I've never had a DUI or anything like that, but my driving infractions are ridiculous. I had a cop pull me over one time, and he was like, oh, my God. He literally said to me, your driving record is horrible. I was like, I know. But it's always like really stupid offenses for me. Like, they got me one time in this tiny little town with like no traffic at all. And I didn't run the stop sign, but I just kind of California rolled by the stop sign. That was my first ticket. And I don't know. Me with driving is just, I'm not a bad driver. It's just, I just don't have the best luck with that for some reason. I really don't. Grandma, no tickets, no accidents, no DUI. I did have an accident recently. Not my fault. Somebody actually ran into the back of my beast of a Mustang. And this is kind of, I felt really bad for the other person because he ran into me. He smashed right into the side ass end of my car. And, Mustangs they're just beasts. They're just tough cars. And so I have like this little like dent. His entire front end was just destroyed. And I guess he had just got this car like maybe a week prior. And the car was just completely wrecked. It was a nice car too, but it was just completely wrecked. And he couldn't even start it afterwards and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, dude, like, I gotta go. Like, here's the information, but I gotta go because I'm door dashing right now. And I just like went on my business and like continued doing what I was doing. So I did feel bad for that guy, but yeah. Hi, Tamara. Grandma, I would probably cry or beat someone up for hitting my car. I wasn't happy, I have to say. But let's try to get back on track with the case here. But yes, hi Tamara. I really actually don't know what else we really need to cover here. Like I said, I knew when he was arrested that it was just going to be hourly. That information just going to be pouring in and pouring in and pouring in, and I've seen that. You know, there's a lot of ex high school friends and things like that have been coming out and speaking on all of this, and so not surprised. And I've just been watching, and then when I feel like there's something that needs to be, you know, shown or something, I have done that. Let me look at this one for 1 second. Yeah, so Fox News. They just are Nancy Grace. They're all reporting the same thing. Just reading the titles of this: Idaho murder, suspect believed to be identified through genealogy evidence. Next title: Idaho murders, DNA linked man accused of killing 4 college students to crime scene. I'm telling you, DNA star of this case. Mark my words. Nicole G, do you think that was him at the vigil? I actually do, Nicole. Certainly looked like him. But I was wrong. I was wrong the other day because I really thought that video of him like talking about the crimes was him, but it wasn't. So I do. Let's pull those pictures up real quick. Hang on. Where's that at? ATS News. So let's take a look at these pictures. People, myself included, believe that this was Bryan at the visual, which, you know, is pretty sad because Kaylee's mom really called this, you know. That's why she didn't want to hold a funeral right away for her daughter, because she was afraid that the killer was going to show up at any sort of memorial or visual. So I do love that the visual for Maddie and Kaylee was held on the day that he was arrested, because he couldn't be there if he was arrested, right? Now, of course, as soon as I get to share my screen, it does this. I don't know why it does that. Like, I'll pull something up and then it just gets stupid. All right. Yes, I watched Sister Wives. All right, let me pull it again. Oh, wait, it's on their community tab. All right, so let's look at these pictures. Oh, what is that? I haven't seen that 40 minutes ago. What is this? ATS News? Do I need to drop that chat down? Can you guys see that? Hang on. Let me drop this chat down real quick. Let me drop that down. Let me hide this message. And then let's go here. All right. So ATS News is saying, I'm still undecided after watching CDT video of him walking in, and judging by your comments on my community post yesterday, it seems you are all divided too. How about now? Him or reaching? Okay, so she's showing more pictures. I'm telling you, I really think that he was probably there. He seems like the kind of killer that would want to show up at the damn visual. He just does. Where's the pictures? Oh. I can't blow these up at all. You guys see that? So that first picture is pretty blurry. This one with him here in the red jumpsuit is obviously from today. It's funny that she's showing that screenshot because I took that exact same screenshots. I saw him look over at the media and I screenshot it and I was going to post it. Did I post it? I don't know if I did or not. But yeah, so we're still looking at this. I think this picture here, the sideways picture of him, is the most telling. Over here in the red jumpsuit, he obviously has a bulletproof vest on, or maybe even his turtle suits. But he has something on underneath his prison clothes. So when you look at the blue picture and he doesn't have anything on underneath of it, it looks like his same, body type. It's that nose. It's that nose that really, really stands out. Somebody did say, though, that this guy's ears look really slopey back and that Bryan's don't. But I don't know because we're not seeing a full profile picture of him. His head's kind of cocked towards the media. So it's kind of does look a lot like him though. But let's look at this other. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Hang on. All right, so I wanted to look at these other pictures. Okay, so this was yesterday. ATS News is saying, is this him? Exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point. Your thoughts, please. I'm undecided. Scroll to see more pictures. He's alone and hiding his hands. So this was the visual. And somebody caught this, timestamp 7:20. He does very much appear to be by himself. Why would they not let me blow this up on here? It's kind of annoying. What the hell is this? Is the picture gonna load? No. All right, I don't know. These pictures aren't gonna load, but people are heavily speculating that this was Bryan at the students' visual. And I wish I could blow them up more, but I don't know. I can't. When I click on the picture, nothing happens. So, and when I do this, it just goes to an all white screen. So maybe my laptop, maybe something else. I don't know. Oh, there we go. So yeah, here she's showing side by side of him, but in the known picture that we have of him, he's facing head on. The alleged picture of him at the visual, again, is a profile picture. So it's hard to tell. It is blurry. Does it look like the general outline of him? Yes. I'll just say yes. So here's more of a, you see him in the background here, walking. He does appear to be by himself. Raper. Waiting for these pictures to come up. So here's another picture of him just like by himself. Well, alleged picture. I can't say that that's him because I don't know if that's him. Certainly looks like him. And then this is the last picture when it decides to show up for us. Raven, screenshot, then blow it up. Yes, I could do that. But I did post them on my community tab. And, oh, wait. Did I? Or no, I think I just shared her post. Oh, did I get a profile pic of him? I did. Yeah, because I screenshot him coming out of the... this one picture that I have is kind of making me doubt it. Because it's his face to the side from today. And his nose doesn't look as large from the side as you would think it would. Let me see that. I don't really know. It's really hard to tell. This is the last picture. It's blurry. But he doesn't. This guy in this picture, you know, he appears to be slim, tall, alone. Does have a nose like Bryan sort of. But when I'm looking at my own picture here, let me just, I'll show that one. Let me send that to myself real quick. When I'm looking at my own picture here from the side, it just doesn't. So that picture that I took today, and when I blow that up, his face isn't all the way turned profile. And his nose is large, but it just doesn't seem to be like that other picture. All right, fine. Let me do that real quick. Let me go to ATS. News. I'm going to screenshot the pictures that they have. And then look at these side by side. Oh, whoa, what? Oh, wait, no, we got, okay. So, ATS News 50 minutes ago, I slowed the footage and see what looks like a wound. Take a look here. Watch Bryan Kohberger react to being pulled over. Oh, they got the pullover footage. Have you guys seen this? Oh, wow. I think this is a little bit more interesting because this is definitely him. So let's watch this for a minute. This is on ATS's channel, ATS News. And I want to see this. So, hi, babe. So it says, watch Bryan Kohberger react to being over. Wow. I knew they were going to get this footage. I'm glad. Well, not them, but I'm glad somebody did. Wow. Let's stop right now. Is that all the footage that they sent? All right. We'll have it down a little bit more because I have it turned up. So we'll slow it down. So you see his face a little bit better. So here's when was this? 12/15/2022. So it looks like almost 6 o'clock. They were pulled over. Here's his white Elantra. Can you guys see this? Am I still sharing my screen? I think I am. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. Okay, so let's play it. Well, this is definitely him. So that's obviously Kohberger. Oh God, he's so damn creepy looking, isn't he? Like, is it just me? Like, just look at his face. God, he freaks me out. There's something about him that freaks me the hell out. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So again, his dad, him. Hey, let me just take a peek at this. I just want to look at the car. I want to look at what they had in there. Water bottles. Okay, so I think they were showing on his wrist right here that it looked like there was a mark on his wrist. I'm gonna actually agree with Robbie that he does look scared here. Oh, it's just me. Hang on a second, you guys. I don't know. I don't know what I did with that. Can you look? I don't know where. Cards? The gray ones. Yeah, so that's pretty creepy. He did look scared, I have to say. Looks scared coming into contact with police that way. It's pretty interesting. Let's see what you guys have to say here. How long have we been on? Gosh, almost 3 freaking hours. Sorry, it's just been a long live stream, I think. Raven saying very creepy. Alley Cat, oh yes. Hi, Glory. Just got here. The father reminds me of Steve Powell. Really? Interesting. Yeah. There are better videos, Jess. Are there? Okay. Well, I mean, I just feel like that is there longer videos that like show the actual interaction of the police with him, or is that all that we get? Hold on. Let me look it up. Oh, there is longer stuff. Okay, we're going to play that. Hang on. I haven't seen this. I haven't seen any of this. Just so much darn information coming out. It's like you don't sleep and just wait for it all to come out, or you try to catch up. I'm trying to catch up. Okay. So, okay. All right. So let's watch this longer video. This is a 3-minute video. of him. This is on Fox 59 News. I'm gonna leave it at 75. All right, so let's see. Is there any sound to this? Doesn't appear to be. So we're in the cop car right now. It's looking like. Speed this part up a little bit. Oh, whoa. We gotta get back. I need to see this car. Like, fully. Alright, wow. Unreal. I'm gonna slow this down. I want to watch this slowly and carefully. So there's the car. I can't hear that cop at all. There's no CC. Closed captions unavailable. Oh, I can't really hear what this officer's saying. So I'll have to try to listen closely. You see how dirty his car is? His car is so dirty. So this is the video where he got pulled over for speeding, because I just heard the cop say you're going 75 miles an hour.
You guys talking about a trooper? We don't have any SUVs. It was a county guy, like a black SUV. Okay, all right. You guys following too closely?
Oh.
Well, I'm not going to give you guys a ticket if you just got stopped. Just make sure you give me some money. Okay? So it's all about how fast you're going. So if you're going 10 miles an hour, you only need one car. And if you're going, so the speed limit here is 7. If you're going 7 miles an hour, you need 7 cars. Yeah. That's the way to
How come in this body cam footage we don't see them at all? Like, it's just pointed at the ground in his dirty car. The weirdest body cam footage I've ever seen. This is all we get. Is a side of his dirty, leaky car and the cop's shoes, and no No closed captions. I can barely hear what they're saying with all the cars going by. This is really bad body cam footage.
Oh, we're at. Yeah, it's a long haul. You guys scared of airplanes? All right, he's done. Thank you.
Okay, that was just really crappy body cam footage. Yeah, Squeaky, I see you. Squeaky's saying, where'd you just say that? Squeaky said, I set up there earlier. That was mainly ground footage. Now do you know what I meant? Yeah, I see that. That's kind of, it's really shitty just body cam footage. You don't even show the people. Like, that's the whole point of it. I don't know why this cop had his body cam footage pointed to the ground. Oh, you think that guy's dapper and handsome? Sure. Let's see. Tamara is asking Squeaky Wheels, after seeing this footage up close, I have a question. Do you think his dad knows something? Grandma, no, I don't think his dad knows. Squeaky Wheels, nope, not at all. Allie thinks yes. Tamara, thank you guys. Allie, okay. Squeaky Wheels. At Tamara, his fellow students, his neighbors. Hold on, we got to back it up to see this creepy looking freak. I'm sorry, he just creeps me out. He just does. Like the look, you know, eyes the soul to eyes the window to the soul, and this guy's eyes just. I mean, just look at it. Anyway, so Squeaky Wheel is saying his fellow students, his neighbors, his teachers, his old high school friends, and his family, none of them seemed to have a clue that he was capable of this. I agree with that. They, you know, his high school friends seem to be aware that he had, some of them, that he had a dark side. Especially the guy that stopped being friends with him and talked about his heroin use. And then Nick McLaughlin, you know, saying that, I think that was the same guy, but bullying and that he was a bully and, you know, he lost all this weight. He became really aggressive and things like that. But I think they may have, the guy that came out and did that interview with Chronicles of Olivia, you know, he was saying that, I'm sorry, train of thought just lost. I have too many thoughts going through my head. Anyway, yeah, that guy. Oh, that guy said the guy that Chronicles of Olivia. That is the name of her YouTube channel. She interviewed one of his old high school friends, and he said on there, he was like, I mean, I knew he wasn't a good person. You know, he was a bad person. So I think the friends will probably be more telling. Just having teenagers of my own, I know they like to keep things from you and stuff like that. Their friends could probably tell you a lot more about your own darn child than you can, even when you think you know everything about your kid. I'm sure their friends could enlighten you to some things that you had no idea about your own child. So yeah, I don't know, but I do not want to persecute his family as of yet. I do not want to say, yes, I think his dad knew, because again, it's just not really that uncommon that a parent would do this. would go there, would drive back. They could be potentially be looking at it as a bonding experience or things like this. Like, look at Bryan. Now, imagine if his dad was not in that car with him. Who knows? The cop could have been more harsh on him, questioned him more. But you hear that cop, I did hear him ask, "Are you his dad?" And, he said yes. And then, when they sort of kind of explain that, coming back from college and stuff like that, the cop decides not to even give him a ticket. But just the look on Bryan's face. Let me drop this chat down because I want it to be bigger. Hang on. Sorry, guys. Hi, Jess. Hi. So, yeah, I just want this to fill up the whole screen so we can really look at this creep. But, Bryan could have even asked his dad to come. So, again, it's all about wearing that mask. It's all about what things look like, how people perceive things. One of my favorite quotes is, "Perception is reality for people." However someone perceives something is reality to them, even if it's not really reality, which in this case, allegedly, it's not. Seemingly to this officer, he's pulled over a college student on a cross-country trip with his dad going home for the holidays. That's the perception. Is that the reality? No. Allegedly, big time, no. Because allegedly, this person is a quadruple killer who may have even been using his dad. Like I said, like the perception of this whole scene is not bad. Oh, dad's riding with son. He's going home. They're going home for Christmas from college, blah, blah, blah. How nice that his dad's riding with him. So for all we know, Bryan could have asked his dad to come. Who knows? Grandma says his dad has the look of confusion. He looks like in this up close that like he's trying to be like, oh, hey, not doing anything wrong here. Like everything's fine. Like, trying to make everything like, oh, it's, nothing bad. Sorry, we were speeding. Bryan looks like, holy shit, what are you doing here next to my car? Doesn't he? He looks really crazy in that picture. Notice the door handle looks smudged. Yeah. Squeaky wheels. There's no way my dad would have taken a 2,500-mile road trip with me when I was 28, unless I was riding in the trunk. Of course, in my case, it would have been riding in the bed of the pickup. Well, everybody's dads are different, but that's kind of funny. What state was this in? I'm not sure, Grandma. I'm not sure. I did read about it, but there's so much information in this case to retain. I do not remember the states this was in. Squeaky wheel. I sat up there earlier. Oh, okay. I already got to that. Allie, I was answering a different question, Jess. I'm reserving judgment on parents, not enough info. Yeah, I agree. We just really don't have enough info. The only red flag to me at this point with them was the dad's response that, not my problem. When the FBI, or not the FBI, I'm sorry, when Bryan Etten came to their house to, try to get a sound bite from them or something, which he did, because when he knocked on the door, you hear the dad answer the door, and the first thing he says is, "It's not my problem," which seems really strange to say after you just drove 2,500 miles with your son. It's not my problem. Because I know I wouldn't have said that. I just probably would have shut the door and locked it. And not said anything, because I probably would have been in disbelief and shock and not knowing what to say. So for him to immediately distance himself, not my problem. Kind of weird, but Glory, I think BCK would have been a lot more obviously terrified. Grandma, his dad looks like, what the hell? Squeaky wheel. Yes, that was actually the second time. Yeah, I know. They were stopped twice. Second time they had been stopped within about a 30-minute period. Both happened in Indiana. Okay, so you're answering Grandma's question for me. Thank you. The first was for speeding. The second one was for tailing too close. Thank you. I'm just reading you guys' comments. You guys are funny. Raven is saying, maybe yes, Jess. Maybe that's why he wanted Dad there with him in case he got caught. The little boy syndrome. Yep. I mean, in the BTK case, Dr. Ramsland talked about arrested development. That the BTK started to have these fantasies at a young teenage age, like 14 or so. He knew back then that he had these tendencies, we'll call them. So the little boy syndrome, it just looks good. It looks like, again, a father and son traveling home for the holidays. Yeah, my son's in college. He's going for his doctorate, and we're just going home for Christmas. And, but it's optics. It's all about optics. Now, if you pulled over Bryan Kohberger by himself without Dad over here, and you look at that creepy mofo, just Bryan, again, maybe that cop would have questioned him more. Squeaky. Internet sleuths and online detectives have been pointing out an abrasion on Bryan's right wrist. Yeah, you can see it. I don't know if you can see it in this video that I'm showing, but I can see it. Like, I'm looking at my laptop and I can definitely see it on his right wrist. Though this was around a month after the murders. Right, exactly. Maybe he covered his wounds with long sleeve shirts. Yeah, I mean, it was cold there anyway. So, I don't think anybody was out there with shorts and t-shirts on. So wearing long clothes would be appropriate. But you can see that abrasion on his right wrist. Like, I keep staring at it. Raven Gypsy, that's an odd response, isn't it? I thought so too. Allie, sorry, but guess who has a live stream on called Breaking? Did Bullhorn Betty see the killer, Bryan Kohberger? Guess. You know what? No guesses. Well, I guess it would be Betty. I guess it would be Betty that has that. Or is it Olivia? One of them. Tamara at Squeaky Wheel. In this still shot, I see not marks on his wrists or hands, and he isn't seemingly trying to shield or hide them. That's a good observation. He really, I think it's just my laptop. Like, maybe if you blow up the screen on your phone, let me see if I can do that. No, yeah, it's just, like, I see it clearly. Like, when I'm looking at my laptop right now, I can definitely see that. But I just think on this live stream, like it's not as visible. But there are definitely pictures out there of it and stuff like that. But I do think you make a good point here, Tamara, by saying that he's not really trying to hide it. And I think Squeaky also made a good point that this is almost a month after. So I would kind of assume that his wounds most likely would have healed by then. Let's see. Lauren Dellen. Squeaky wheel. Good chance of it. Ted Bundy showed up to class in Utah looking the worse for wear and then commenting, looks like you had a wild weekend. Huh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean it's kind of amazing how many like serial killers and stuff like that, like the big ones, you know, the ones that everyone knows about, how many of them, like Dennis Rader, again, he wanted to be a police officer. Luckily, he was turned down 3 different times for that. So he became the next best thing. He became a compliance officer, and he got to carry a gun. And you know, it's kind of funny with Dennis Rader, because here's where delusion and narcissism comes in. You know, he asked the cops, like, hey, if I send you this, like, he wanted to communicate with them directly. And so he's like, hey, if I send this floppy disk to you, like, will you not track it? Like, can I trust you? You know, and the cops are like, absolutely. And so he stupidly sends this. And then he commented and said, you know, that he felt like betrayed. Like they had betrayed his trust. They gave their word, and they went back on their word. You know, it's just funny how these people view life and view things. Like, here you are, a prolific serial killer of many decades that has been terrorizing, you know, Wichita, Kansas for 30 plus years. And you feel betrayed by the cops because they told you they wouldn't track your floppy disk, even though they've been looking for you for 3 damn decades. But you know, him being a compliance officer, he felt like he was on sort of like their level, you know, or in the same bubble as them. And he wasn't at all. He wanted to be, but he wasn't. Just like Bryan Kohberger, again, going for his PhD in criminology, Ted Bundy in law school. I mean, all these people tried to do what they could to literally become better murderers. You know, not to help the community, not to become better police officers or psychologists or anything like that, like literally to become better murderers. I mean, talk about a low bar for self goals. And yeah, I'm just kind of being smart with that, but this guy just really irks the life out of me. Like I almost can't stand looking at him. So anyway. Oh my God, Jess, your phone. What's wrong with my phone? What happened to my phone? What did my phone do? What'd I do? What, because my phone's going off? What happened with my phone? Did you guys hear like a notification or something? Sorry if you did. Oh, my phone ringing? Yeah. Let's see. Squeaky wheel. We don't know for sure that he suffered any wounds. He may have gone prepared with a full face mask, gloves, and shoes he could discard and throw out. His undoing will be blood in his car or apartment. That, you know, your guess is as good as mine, because we just don't know until we see the affidavit of what they have. But yeah, I do suspect that he most likely wore gloves. He most likely wore some type of mask to try to prevent, any type of DNA. But I think there's probably something in his car and at the crime scene. I'm finding it impossible to believe again that you go in with a knife and murder 4 people and you leave none of your own DNA behind. It's just literally impossible. Impossible. Sorry, I had to blow my nose. I had to mute. Tamara, he left DNA, in my opinion. Yeah, I do too. I mean, they're all the news agencies are saying this. He left DNA behind. So I don't just, Squeaky could very well be right. Again, we all don't know, but I don't think it's just going to be like blood in his car. I think he absolutely left DNA at that crime scene. And that I think that is going to be his true undoing. So Squeaky is saying, at Grandma, they just got possession of his car on 12/31. I bet the driver's side of that Elantra lit up like a Christmas tree. They sprayed it with luminol. If kid's blood is in the car apartment, he's done. I think he's done either way. He left DNA behind. He just did. And I think that he's trying very hard to, cast doubt in the public eye and just make people somehow believe that, okay, so I'm unmuted. So we have Christy on the line, and she's going to talk about this case with me. So, what do you mean? No, you're not. Yes, you are. This is my cousin. So say hi.
Hi.
So what do you think, Chris? What do you think?
I don't know. I'm listening to everything.
Where are you at in this live stream?
Well, I'm dashing, so I'm like got a little bit here and got a little bit there. So fill me in a little bit.
On what exactly?
So I did not know that the dad flew with him. That was news to me.
We didn't fly. He didn't fly with him. He flew there.
No, he flew to him, right, and drove home with him.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes. And as a person that has had college kids, is that something that you would do because your child goes to college in a faraway state? So is that
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that it. I don't. Okay, let me think about his age and my kid's age. My kid is 19. In his freshman year, yes, every time he came home, we were making sure that we were with him 9+ hours away. You don't necessarily like your kid driving that far through New York City, all the things. But this guy is, 28? That seems old to have your dad fly out there. It's a way to look at it.
Yeah, I agree.
DJ comes home by himself multiple times a semester now when he's not playing ball.
So he does that by himself now.
Because he's in his sophomore year. So early on, yes, I could see that. Later in like Bryan's case, he's 28.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm trying to say it's normal to me for somebody early on in their college years. But then as they grow and they get older, like I don't really feel like, I mean, at 28, why do you need that?
Yeah, I mean, the only conclusion that I would come to, I guess, would be that maybe they just looked at it as maybe a bonding experience, but I'm kind of more leaning towards Bryan using him as sort of a cover, like, oh, look, here's me and my dad driving back from college, and we're just having some bonding time, going home for the holidays. The optics of it just look better. So I'm just wondering, if this guy did this. We do have to say allegedly. Again, he has not been convicted in a court of law yet, so allegedly. But I do think that Bryan most likely is a psychopath. I think he definitely has that, and just extreme narcissism. And if you know anything about narcissists, they will. Oh, my stream's being weird. Hold on. Look at Grandma allegedly. So Glorendellen is saying the dad had to undergo intense police questioning. Glorendellen is a paralegal, just so you know, Chrissy.
Okay.
So she's saying the dad had to undergo intense police questioning. No right to silence for witnesses. Interesting.
What can you explain to me, because I missed the part of where you were talking about the dad said not my problem. I missed that whole part.
Okay, so a reporter named Bryan Etten, it's Entin. You can look him up on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, but he has been covering this case from the gates. And when Bryan was arrested, he went to the family's home after Bryan was arrested, and he knocked on the door. And you can't see the dad, you can just hear them. And when he knocked on the door and said whatever he said, the dad, like his initial response was, "It's not my problem." And I just thought that was a very odd response, especially after you've driven 2,500 miles with your son. You just spent Christmas with him and all of that, and now you're just like, yeah, this isn't my problem. I just think that's a really odd statement to make.
I agree with that. I agree that it's odd.
But then,
I would have
go ahead.
been more like a no comment type.
Yeah.
Or nothing other than, I don't know. So are they saying that they think he knows something?
Some people are speculating. They're just speculating. They're wondering if he did know, or any of the family knows, or anything like that. It's my opinion that they didn't. But, and I'm also like, with the dad's response of it's not my problem, I question whether or not, because again, with this alleged heroin use by Bryan in high school, he, a heroin addict will put their families through literal hell.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if this happens, they had already been through hell with him in the past with his addiction. Then they go through these years where he seemingly, turns his whole life around and gets these degrees and all of this. And then this hits that he's a quadruple murderer. So I'm wondering at this point, with him being 28 years old, that his dad is just like, I am done. Like, you have put our family through hell once. You are now doing it on a much larger, crazier scale. And this is not my freaking problem. Like, I am done with this. But then again, the family came out with a statement and said that they will stand behind their son and brother and love and support him. So, yeah, but I think that was the lawyer. All right, Allie, go make something good for dinner. Tyler's saying hi, Christy.
Hey, Ty.
He's in the chat.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, because you made what was I gonna say? Oh my god, I hate that. I missed. There was another part that I come in on, and I was good, and then I missed the rest of it. Oh, did he plan for his capture? Like, cause I don't know, like all of the things that he's doing and trying and saying, and weird to me.
Yeah, I definitely have entertained that. Yeah. I've entertained that thought because I kind of feel like he possibly did, again, thinking he's the smartest person in the room. His background with understanding forensics and all of that kind of stuff. I'm really wondering if he plans for this.
Do you think that he planned? No, I mean, I don't know that anybody really plans to get caught, but hear me out here. Thought about getting caught, and what would he, like, how to get off?
Yes.
Like, how to get off on it.
Yeah, I definitely keep entertaining that idea. I really do. And I do think he's definitely thought about it. And I do.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I definitely think he's thought about it. And I definitely think that he has an idea in mind of how he is going to get out of this. And I like I said earlier in the stream, that I think that they're going to use the fact that there was a lot of people coming in and out of this house. There was a lot of DNA. There was a lot of stuff like that. But they have to have something solid. Yeah. For them to.
Well, I mean, do you think okay, so hear me out here. Do you think in his mind, he was thinking perfect crime, get caught and get off? Like, nobody really wants to get caught, obviously. I guess if you're a murderer, I mean, you would think that they would really want to get away with it. But if you got caught, now we got to flip it and let's see if I'm as good as I think I am. We've talked about how he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. You've said that from the beginning, whatever, all those things.
It's very possible. It really is, because I just thought it was incredibly stupid for him to I just keep saying that. Like, how stupid can you be? I mean, you majored in these things. Your focus was on forensics. You had to know that you were going to leave something behind. And you have to know how advanced, our DNA technology is now and all of that kind of stuff. And I really think that there is a real possibility that he did plan for this. Okay, if I'm caught, here's how I'm going to get out of it. Here's how I'm going to get off of this. It's just it's an interesting twist. But like when the serial killers were operating like in the 70s, they just didn't have DNA. They didn't have a lot of CCT video and stuff like that. So they got away with things a lot easier. So I think with Bryan, especially fancying himself as a very smart person,
Exactly.
Kind of expected in some way that I could be caught, and if I am, here's plan B.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So definitely a thought.
Or in his crazy mind, that was the whole plan from the get-go. Let's do this, get caught, and get off. Because he was smart enough to know. I mean, he knows, like you said, his background and all those things. Like, you think it would just, it amazes me that he knew all the stuff that he did. Like, and he was
he's not the only one, though. I do keep pointing that out. He's definitely not the only one that has done something like this with this kind of background. Raven is saying, I've thought the same thing, to see if he can beat his own case.
Yes.
The arrogance will show in trial. Wait for it. I definitely agree. And I suspect that arrogance and that narcissism is going to shine through. He's the type of, I feel like he's the type of killer that is gonna look at the camera and maybe give a little grin or something like that.
He's such a creepy person. He just looks creepy.
Yeah, well, again, I saw this profiler say, oh, you guys stop it. You guys are just saying he looks creepy because you know what he did.
No, I got that vibe immediately.
Yeah, same. Like, that's what I keep saying. Like, no, you would not have to tell me a thing about this man, and just one look at him, his eyes would completely freak me out. And I just know me. I would just move away from that person. I just wouldn't want to be in their vicinity at all. So no, it's not because of what I think he's done. He looks like a complete creep, just period. So, Squeaky Wheel's saying most of the time. They're talking about whiskey and bar fighting. Glorndellen. First thing I thought upon seeing him is he looks like a young Warren Jeffs. Ooh, that's a very good observation, Glorndellen. Yes, I can definitely see that, especially that one picture of him where he's like a hold on, let me pull that up. Hold on, let me share my screen and pull that up real quick, because this one picture is like the creepiest picture for me with him. Hold on. Hide this message. So all screenshots about Bryan from my last live streams, but where is this one picture? Even in this picture, Glorndellen, he kind of looks like Warren Jeffs. Christy, okay, this one. If you don't know who Warren Jeffs is, he is he was the leader of FLDS cult, a pedophile, a very, very creepy looking man. And I definitely see the resemblance. So I have it pulled up on screen now. That's weird, Gloria. I didn't think of that. But now that you mention it, yeah, I can totally see that. So.
I just pulled his picture up. I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks a lot like Warren Jeffs. If I had a picture of Warren Jeffs, I'd put him side by side. They do look a lot alike. Grandma's saying, married little girls, Jeffs is gross. Yes, he did. He was marrying very young girls. I don't know. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, I don't want to show that again. Okay, let me just drop this down. All right, any closing thoughts, Chrissy?
No.
None? Do you think they got their guy?
Yes.
Absolutely. No.
Yeah, absolutely. I do.
I do too.
I do.
Do you think he had any accomplices?
Well, what you told me the other day makes me wonder. Hold on a second.
Okay. I'm going to wait on her answer because I just want to hear what she has to say. Do you guys think that he had any accomplices? I don't. I do believe he's a lone wolf, and I do believe he acted alone. Grandma, yes, they caught him. He may have had accomplices after the fact. After the fact, potentially. But I don't know. I just feel like he really did act alone.
Okay, I'm back. No, I don't think there was any accomplices. I mean, just because of when we talked the other day about when he said when he got arrested, did anybody else get arrested? Right? Didn't you say that?
Yeah.
So,
it was reported that he said that, and then it was also reported that he didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if he said that or not, but if he did,
I think he's so much of a loner. Like it wasn't like he was a person that, I don't know. I mean, what? I'm sorry. I'm trying to do 15 things and drive at the same time.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Tamara said, I think they know they have their guy. Law enforcement sure kept quiet. Yeah, they absolutely did.
Yeah.
I think they even kept it from the cops in PA until like just a couple days before they arrested him. So, I mean, they were really keeping that under wraps. Squeaky is saying, I think we got off subject. My apologies, Jess. Yes, you guys did. I don't know what kind of whiskey talk you guys had going on. The moderators were ganging up on me. What? Not my moderators. And I was just trying to defend my little corner of the room. You are lying. My moderators would never do that. Grandma is saying, if I were innocent, I might ask who else they drug in because I'm just not the one. Yeah, exactly. And that was my thinking. I was like, oh God, this guy's planting seeds already. Am I the only one that got arrested? I look forward to exonerating myself. Do you? Because I'm thinking that you look very much forward to playing a game with the public, with the victims' families, with the media, with law enforcement. I think he is ready to play a game.
I think I think that's what he's been preparing for the whole time. Like, it wasn't, I don't know. It wasn't just I don't know. I think maybe it wasn't just about the murdering of those poor people. I think it was all of it. All of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to agree. It'll be very interesting to know if, like, I'm dying to know what the hell they took out of his apartment, because they were taking stuff out of his apartment. So I imagine his laptop, any type of tech, they're going to take that. If they found any other evidence, any trophies, any mementos that he took from the crime scene, potentially, stuff like that. I don't know, but I'm just very, very curious as a psych student, as a criminal justice student. There's a lot of writing involved, and I just feel like this guy kept notes and or journaled or something of that nature. Writing comes very easily to people that major in these types of fields. So, I'm just wondering, did he keep notes? Did he write things down? Did he write out a plan for if he gets caught, things like that? If he kept notes on the targets, as they would call them, the victims. Yeah. And I want to just gut feel. I want to say that he probably did. If he was stalking them, it's most likely that he was keeping some type of log of when they come and go, what their activities were, all that kind of thing. He probably was well aware that their bar was the corner club. He's probably well aware that they would go to the food trucks and get food there, and where they worked, maybe what time they got off of work, what time they went on breaks, just all of that kind of stuff.
Raven, wouldn't he have gotten rid of that? Wait, I mean, it's been 7 weeks, we said?
He did.
Right? 7.
They took evidence out of that apartment, so obviously they had found stuff in there, and he didn't get rid of the car. So,
I'll be right back.
Okay. So Tamara is saying, in my opinion, he isn't as smart as Ted Bundy. I don't think so either. I think he would like to be. Gloria Dellon is saying, maybe he's as smart, but he's not as cunning. Yeah, I'll agree with Tamara that is a good point. Definitely not as cunning. All right, guys, we have literally, what's this? Oh, I don't know why I pinned that. Sorry. Okay, so Squeaky, this is going to be the last comment, and then we're going to go ahead and end this live stream because we've been on forever. So Kohberger was studied in criminal justice and behavioral patterns. He wasn't trained in crime scene forensics and methods. It shows by the mistakes he made. No, actually, he was. His teacher specialized in that. That's what she came to DeSales University to teach, was forensics. So he also told another one of his professors that is what he wanted to focus on, was forensics and criminal behavior. So, yeah. Again, he was taught by like a serious expert in that field. But all right, guys, we're gonna check out and head out here. Thank you guys all for being here, and I will see you guys next time. Bye for now.